Blog Talk Radio.
Company, always on the run. A destiny, oh, it's a rising sun. I was born, a shotgun in my hands. Behind the gun, I'll make my final stand. Yeah, and that's why they call me bad company. I can't deny. Bad company. Till the day I die. Until the day I die. Until the day I die. Rebel souls, deserted weeping call. Chose the gun and threw away the stone. Now these towns, well, they all know our name. The death punch sound is our claim to fame. And that's why they call me bad company. I can't deny. Bad company, till the day I die. Until the day I die. Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, blood for blood. We've all gotta die. We've all gotta die.
Hello, you've reached the office of Senator Heinrich for the state of New Mexico. I'm sorry our office is unable to take your call at the moment. Please leave your name and callback number at the tone. Thank
They
you.
must be all on vacation because this is like the second
Record your
week I've
message
tried
at the
this.
tone. When you are finished, hang up or press pound for more options.
Get off my phone. They must be all on vacation or something. I don't know. This is for like forever because this is like the second week in a row now that I've tried contacting these politicians, these criminals on the other side of the country here in the southwest corner of the country, and nothing. None of them could take your call. And so one of them, their voicemail was full. So let me try another one here. I'll try a couple of them tonight. See if we can get a hold of anybody. Got a couple questions for them, and that's our job, and they're our employees, and they have to answer to us, and we're going to see about. So I got some stuff I want to talk to them about. So let's see if we can get a hold of a couple of these maggots. On dial.
Hello, You've reached the office of Senator Heinrich for the state of New Mexico.
Again.
I'm sorry our office is unable to take your call at the moment.
Wow. Well, that's his second field office that he's got there. So Heinberger there, he's been out now. He's been out actually. Let's see. Let me check my calendar here. He's been out 3 weeks. 3 weeks. His office is not taking phone calls. So what do they got going on? What are they doing? I mean, what's the deal here? I mean, has anybody got any answers for this? Because 3 weeks now. I mean, I tried to see the senators from California, New Mexico, Arizona. Nothing. They can't take the calls. Congressmen too. I mean, both branches are on vacation, permanent vacation here. So for a while, I mean, what's going on? Does anyone have any answers out there? If anybody can tell me what's going on. I mean, I know that I mean Memorial Day's over with, but that doesn't explain a couple of weeks ago why they couldn't take the calls. I mean, I called them off the air too, and nothing. I mean, like I said, a couple of them, their voicemails were full. So, I mean, I think it's a good idea in a way, but they should turn off the phones too and just shut the lights off, close up the buildings, and, the people can figure out good use for the buildings, and their staff and everybody, their people can go home and not come back, and we can run things just fine without them because, they're really a waste anyway when you think about it. I mean, we don't need them. So, I mean, what's going on here? My computer's glitched. Hello, yes, okay, all right. All righty. What do you need those for? Hello, you need, more pics. Oh, yeah, well, that's for I think you're talking about the heading for the show, but, yeah. Anyway, I was expecting a couple calls here tonight for this, but I didn't touch base with the person, so I should have did that today, but I figured they already knew they were supposed to call up the podcast tonight between 7 and 8 o'clock, so we'll see what happens. I'm not going to say who it is, but it's somebody I'd rather in, somebody that we probably know or you heard of. So that person's supposed to be calling in, and between 7 and 8, I'm not, like I said, I don't like to say the names because then people say, oh, yeah, I want to hear that, and then, they don't show up. So, but I did have a few guests line up, and it's nothing new where, people don't, ow, son of a gun. They don't show up, or they don't show up on time, or they just, or they don't, if you can't make it, call me and let me know. That's all. It's no big deal. I understand things come up and people get busy and, things happen. And, everybody lives these busy lives now and things, things pop up. I understand that. It's not a big deal. Not like here in, when I told you the stories about when I had, 10 people working for me landscaping and, every single day I would get a phone call where somebody wouldn't show up. And it always really happened after I paid them. After payday, next day, boom, always a couple people wouldn't show up. And, they had a flat tire 9 times. Their grandmothers died 3 times. And, it's like, one guy told me his grandma died. I said, you told me that 6 months ago. I said, that's 3 times your grandmother's died. How many grandmothers you got? Then he got mad at me, and his girlfriend got on the phone. Well, you're rude for saying that. We had a death in the family. I said, listen, he told me his grandmother died. This is 3 times now she's died. So you know what? Don't come back at all. How's that? Go look for another job. So you get on the phone and tell me, come on. It's always after I pay you. After I pay certain people. You don't show up because you either hung over or you went out partying the night, after you got paid. Listen, you got to be responsible. We have jobs scheduled for the next day, and you're just going to blow me off like that. That's dead wrong. You shouldn't do that. Now what am I supposed to tell the customer? That customer was counting on us to be there to do an irrigation repair job or to install flower beds or put down mulch or something. Whatever. Even if it was just to cut the grass, it doesn't matter. Those people were counting on us to be there, and now I'm short 1, 2, 3 guys. That's not right. A lot of times I have to go out there and do the job myself. and that was very hard to do because, between answering the phone, booking jobs, going out pricing jobs, collecting money, mopping up after jobs that the employees didn't do right, and all the other, mechanical breakdowns, maintaining the equipment, buying supplies, there's a lot of stuff to do. I don't have time to go out and do certain things, that I'm paying people to do. And I was paying these guys some good money. This is back in 2009, 2010. I was paying these guys $20 an hour. That's good money back then. So it's just, it's just not right. This is not right. And I saw the trends coming where they would never keep their word or their promise. And I saw it was getting worse and worse and worse. That's why I bailed out. I said, I started phasing it out. I had 3 trucks on the road landscaping, and I phased it down to 2, then 1. And then after that, that's it. Now I got 2 or 3 yards I do, commercial properties. I do them by myself, and that's it, and for some extra money. That's and if I need a helper, I'll just grab somebody that I used to know and say, hey, I got a job, help me out. I'll pay you, $100 to help me out today. Something like that. And I just don't need the stress. The stress was just too much. I just could not find reliable help. It was very, very difficult. And now with the prices, the cost of things, it's really, really bad. Really, really bad. So, the material prices and the competition, the Mexicans are outbidding everything we do. I talked to a painter, a guy who ran a painting company. He says he couldn't keep up. And it's not being prejudiced or anything, but the Mexicans, what they do is that they come over here and they all live in one house, 10 of them, and the government helps them out with buying their stuff. Gives them no interest loans and food stamps, housing assistance and everything, and they're able to go out and bid on jobs and price jobs, and that we cannot compete with. It's just impossible. They undercut us, and there's just no way that we could pay. I'm charging $60 to mow a lawn. The Mexicans come along and they could do it for $30, half the price. There's no way I can compete with that. There's just no way. It's impossible. Even if I took more jobs to work harder and longer and faster, there's just no way. And the same thing with drywall business, plumbers, electricians. It's just really, really. If anybody notices out there now, you call like a plumber or something, they don't speak English no more. You can't understand them. All the landscapers are Mexican now, pretty much. It's bad. It's really bad. And the service industry here in North Carolina has really gone downhill really, really, really bad. I hired a guy a couple of weeks ago to cut my grass. He was an American. I think he lived on Price Mill Road. And, he came out, he did a good job. And, he said he was new. He didn't really know how to price a yard. And I told him, I said, well, I'll be honest with you. I would charge, for a yard my size, this, that, and I said, do you think that's fair? And he goes, oh yeah, that's really good. I wouldn't charge that much. I said, well, I'll pay you, and he didn't want to accept that much money. And I said, no. And I said, I'll pay you cash, So, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not going to try to stick you or rip you off. Believe me, I came across a lot of people like that too over the years. Just really bad people that just were dishonest. I used to tell people, look, if you don't have the money to pay me, just tell me. And, it's no big deal. When you get it, you could pay me. I'm not like that. But if you try to screw me over, then, I'm gonna just screw you over. One guy I took to court, an Orchard. He lived on Orchard Peach Road or Orchard Grass. I forget the name of the road. Orchard. It was over by Horsepan Creek Road, and he was from Sri Lanka, and whatnot, and he stuck me, pretty good. He reeled me in, and I ended up, and I fronted him the supply money to do his flower beds and everything, and he thought he was going to get away with not paying me $1,500. Well, I took him to small claims court and got a judgment against him, and then I was going to execute the judgment, and he paid real quick then. And the sheriff was knocking on his door. So, it's and I didn't like doing that, but, hey, too bad, man. You should have been honest with me. Like I said, even if you lie to me, I'll forgive you a couple times. But if you continuously try to rob me and rip me off and stick me, you're taking food off my table, and money away from me paying my bills, and that's not right. That's wrong, and especially when you got the money. You're driving a BMW, and you're living in a $500,000 house, and you can't afford to pay me. That's a bunch of crock of baloney. Cut back some. Sell the tires on the Beamer there. Sell the rims. So it's doing business. I found out very quickly how difficult it was to manage people. And because that's really when you're a business owner, you have to manage people's different personalities and what they want and how they want things, and you have to kind of you have to get when you're speaking to somebody, you have to and you meet them for the first time. The first impression is very, very important when you're going to bid on a job, then when you're hired, as you get to know the customer. I mean, some of these people I worked for, 15 years. One lady I worked for, and you became friends with these people, and that's kind of hard too, because you get too friendly, and then you have the people that think. I think people understand where I'm getting at. You get too friendly with them, and they think you can take advantage, and they get free stuff, and so you got to stick business with business, and that's how it's got to be. I mean, it's like I said, I learned a lot over the first 5 years when I was in business. And one lesson I'll tell people out there right now: when you're going into business, the first 3 years you're gonna know if you're gonna make it or not. It takes 3 years to get established. At least when it came to landscaping, the landscaping business, it took 3 years. First year, you're going to lose money. You're most likely going to lose money, and you're going to take a lot of losses because you're learning. The second year, you're finally getting established, and you're getting your base down, and you figure out how your help is going to work out for you, or how you're going to hire people and what you want from them, and how they're going to serve you. And then your third year, that's when you build your foundation, and then you take off from there. And one lesson is, don't get into debt. Do not get loans to buy all your equipment. If you don't have the cash, or if you don't have the savings, or if you don't start from, look, man, you can start with a freaking push mower and start from there, and a shovel and a rake, and a little trailer and a pickup truck. You can start like that, and just start and save your money and reinvest your money into your business, and you could be successful, at least back then. Now, if you're starting out business now in 2024, don't do it, because with the way prices are now and the inflation and the economy going to hell, and I don't see it picking back up and being fixed unless Donald Trump gets back into office and some serious changes are made and he puts pressure on the Federal Reserve banking cartel, and I don't see too much changing. And if Biden is reelected, which I think he will, he'll be reelected, and he'll be replaced about a year or two into his presidency because he's too old and he's just really does not know where he's at. We're in trouble. We're going to be in big, big trouble. Probably a World War III type of thing, where we're going to get into war with the Middle East. There'll be a Middle East conflict with Russia and China, or North Korea again, something along those lines. I mean, you can see it playing out, really. The unstable atmosphere in that region of the world, which is really always has been, and you can see what's going on with Ukraine and Russia right now. With Germany, you have Germany getting ready to supply Ukraine with the 100 tanks, their Leopard tanks that they got. It's supposed to be one of the best tanks in the world. They're going to supply them with 100 tanks. Germany, we already know the history between Russia and Germany, the conflict there. So, and Poland's upset about that. So there's a lot of conflict going on right now that people need to pay attention to, and we need to be telling these criminal politicians in the District of Criminals up there in D.C. not to be sending money to Ukraine, which they've already done. But stop sending money to them, Ukraine. We have no type of allegiance with them whatsoever. And don't be sending money to Israel either. Israel's got plenty of money. We don't need to send money. They're our allies. Look, They're not our allies. You know who my ally is, and I said this before. My ally is my next-door neighbor that I borrowed a socket set from. My ally is the neighbors down the street that helped me get a ride when my car was broke down. Those are my allies. Those are the people that are going to help me out, not Israel. Israel's done nothing for me. And Ukraine's done nothing for me, okay? And they've done nothing for you. So they're not our allies. Like George Washington said, friends with all, alliances with none, okay? That's the way it should be. I just don't understand where people get off with this thing that we have to be in everybody's business around the world, and this foreign policy that everyone believes in, that this government, like we're the policemen around the world and we're the superpower. They narrate this in the media constantly. We're the superpower. We've got to be the police person, and we got to monitor everything. You know, we got to get involved in everything, every conflict. No. We got no business over there messing with Iran. We got no business messing with Ukraine. We had no business messing with Iraq back in the day. And remember all the chemical weapons that we never found? And the supposed nuclear power that he was getting ready to be, Saddam Hussein, never happened. That was a big fat lie. Whatever happened with that? Nobody ever got prosecuted for those lies. What about thousands of men that lost their lives because of a lie, a big fat lie? You know? I mean, George Bush was never questioned about that, never brought up on charges. I mean, they got right up in front of the American people and said that Saddam Hussein had chemical weapons, and we had to go, you know, come on, man. What about the babies from the incubators being put on the floor, ready to die? Remember that one? You know, 1991 Desert Storm, you know? Remember that lie? What happened to that? The Kuwait woman there that was living in the U.S. that testified, said that's what happened when Saddam's troops invaded Kuwait, taking babies out of the incubator and laying them on the floor to die. And, oh, God, we got to bomb them, kill them. Yeah, kill the Iraqis now. And it was a lie. The Scud missiles that were launched going into Israel, lie, never happened the way they said it happened. I think he launched like 3 total Scud missiles, but they were faking it. Look it up. It's true. So these things are lies that nobody's been questioned about or brought up on charges about or had the answer to. But let you tell a lie like that. Let you get in trouble. Let you propose something in that type of situation or that level of a conflict and see what happens to you. If you don't get in trouble, if you don't hang because of your wrongs, do as I say but don't do as I do. That's the government we have today. And it's wrong. And until we wake up and we stand up and we take back our country and restore our republic, things are not going to get any better. They're going to continue to get worse. And I'm not trying to be here talking about doom and gloom and, there's no hope. But, we have to wake up, though. Somebody's got to light a fire on these people and bring people together, and it has to start off at a local level and an assembly type of deal. And we have to take back our communities because right now things are it's terrible. I was at the grocery store today. I spent $150. I got nothing. Ridiculous. I was complaining every aisle I went down. I was complaining. People were looking at me like I was crazy. Look at this. Look at this price. Look at this. Look at this. It's crazy. 2 years ago is what And I was kind of hoping people would wake up. What are we going to do? And then they got this place in Greensboro I'm going to bring up here that's funneling trafficking illegals. It's supposed to be housing illegal immigrants. This is, I don't know too much about it. I just read a little bit about it on one of the local apps here. I've seen a couple reports in the media, but they've got this old school. I think it was a Jewish school or some kind of Jewish synagogue. I don't know, but it's supposed to be housing immigrant children that came across the border. So it's fully staffed, I guess, and people are paying attention, and they're complaining about it, but the government's still going to do it. And there's, no matter your complaints, but it's good that people are complaining, they're alert, and they're paying attention to this. Listen, I got on my other phone line, I got a telemarketer calling me. I wish I could patch that son of a gun through because I'd let him have it right now live on the podcast. Oh, they don't stop. They don't stop. My landline phone, every 4 minutes, 5 minutes, I get a telemarketer call. I mean, and I called Spectrum to complain about it, and they said, well, here's an app you could download. No. I'm not doing nothing. You provide me a phone that I'm supposed to be able to talk on. I can't even talk on it. 30 new messages in the last 6 hours. That's what it says on my landline phone right now. 30 new messages. Ridiculous. I pay to get harassed. 657-383-0616. It's open phone. It's always on Tuesday. So if you got something you want to say or bring up or a topic or an issue, unless I have a guest, then the show belongs to you. And you have to do the talking or talk about something or bring a complaint or whatever you want to do. You see, I just tried calling our local criminals in D.C. there, and there's no answer, and they're not there. So if anybody's got any answers for that, I'd appreciate it. Let me go 305 here. 305.
Oh, it's
You're on.
Hey.
Go ahead there.
Hey, Joe. Yeah, hey, Joe.
What's
it's
up,
Mike with RighteousArmy.org and thebigvirushoax.com. Just listening to you as I'm driving down the road. Great intro and talking points as usual. You were talking all the streamlined talking points that are perfectly designed to keep people from saying one thing: new world order, one world government. Everything you were discussing was in other words, you could say all the things you were saying about the politicians and Biden getting reelected and the corruption and being in other lands and we don't belong there, blah, blah, blah. Why is all of those talking points you were talking about happening? Because they're pursuing their new world order, one world government corporation, as you know. So, again, I would just, this is the theme that needs to be the focus of every conversation from every patriot on every blog talk show. They need to be using those words. New world order, one world government corporation. That's why the United States of America has been infiltrated and hijacked by communists. They're using our military to invade other sovereign nations because that's their objective. We have men and women in the service that the average, Christian, American, patriotic person wants to salute and say thank you for your service and God bless you, poor child, for the loss of your father. Or your mother, in the war or in this military operation. I just made a comment on a Facebook post yesterday. There was a coffin with a little boy in a Marine outfit. And, of course, the average comments on there were, God bless you, sir, and thank you for your service, sir. And I was probably the only guy that said, I'm sorry that you were one of those that were fooled into working on behalf of the corrupt U.S. government who's endeavoring to establish their new world order and have no regard for your life or now your fatherless child's life. That people don't realize that most of these young men and women that are getting sucked into the military
losing your mic. I just lost you.
Right? They're young and dumb. They don't know what's going on. And they're raised on video games that are all about shooting and killing anyway, right? The military video games they make to get children at a young age to think in those ways so that they can be...
Oh, I know.
So they can be turned into little slaves to facilitate this
New World Order.
This what is it called? The war machine. The war
military
machine.
Industrial complex.
The military industrial complex. Thank you. Which is a profit producing tool for them. That's all it is, right? It's about we create wars. We make money selling armaments. We make money building and selling just weapons of destruction. We make money destroying towns. We make money rebuilding the towns. We can depopulate the world at the same time by killing off millions of youngsters who get sucked into working for us.
Hey, Mike.
The military's a ruse.
Hey, Mike.
We do need a strong military, but there's all kinds of other ways of going about it. Go ahead.
Yeah, Mike, let me ask you this question. What happened to the Hawaii, that town there that got vaporized there? What happened with that? Nothing in the media. Nothing.
Exactly.
What's going on with that?
I know. There's no accountability, as we know, and that's even a talking point. I don't even like saying it. There's no accountability. No, there is no accountability. There's no accountability for any of these corrupt public officials who are not really public officials. They're corporate officials. There's no accountability. Yeah. They're corrupt and they're getting away with it. And the people need to find a lawful, peaceful means of holding them accountable, which is a big part of what we're doing. Obviously, our efforts at RighteousArmy.org with the people we're associated with, as you know, with the Republic of the United States of America, Eric Dingus, David Lester Straight. I had Eric Dingus and Lester David Straight on the phone the other day, talking across the table, and agreeing on everything but maybe one point,
That's finally good news, because we have to stop the nonsense.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
Right. No, because Eric realizes we all need to work together. David does too. And I know them both well. Just as I've been vetted, they've been vetted. I have vetted them as much as they have vetted me. And I don't know everything about them, and they don't know everything about me. But they vetted me sufficient. I've vetted them sufficient. And they are, as I've said before, I know David. He's a genuine man of God.
Yeah.
I
know, they know the deal.
I know
what's going on.
Right. Hey, you can find faults and flaws with anybody, that's not what we're here to talk about.
Any person, any human being on earth, you could find a flaw.
That's right. Right.
None of us are perfect.
So they'll use that stuff to try to discredit people like Eric Dingus or David Straight, or even others.
Or me.
That's what they want to do, discredit, or you. Right, discredit, because we're talking about the real issues. I was on the phone today with Mike.
And Mike, hang on, Mike, just to not take you away from your train of thought, I emailed you that Republic packet, that information from years ago, all the official documents from The Hague.
Okay,
that were filed.
I did see the email come in today. Yeah, I'll look at it.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I wasn't sure what it was, but now I know. That's all? That's everything?
All right.
That's the whole file?
That should be everything, yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, because...
Go ahead, carry on your thoughts, please. Go ahead.
What's that?
I said, go ahead, carry on your thoughts. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I do that sometimes to people, but I'll forget.
No, that's okay. I appreciate that. But yeah, that's the gist of it. As you know, you definitely have the green light from Eric. I told you, that I'm not mentioning names and everything on certain occasions based on certain things that may be going on. But Eric definitely gives the green light for you to. Right. But Eric definitely gives the green light for you to promote. Yeah, he gives the green light. He told me for you to definitely promote the Thursday evening meetings.
Okay, great, good.
I sent the last one out. I don't know if you got it, but the last one you made.
Well, why don't you tell everybody about it right now? Why don't you tell everybody about it right now, very clearly, and let them know what's going on real quick and outline? Because some people are asking me right now. I got an instant message right now. Some people are talking to me on Twitter and asking me what's going on Thursdays or what are you guys doing. So if you want, go ahead, promote it.
Okay, yeah. So as most of your listeners know, you were heading the radio show for the Republic of the United States of America for the last 10 years. You're intimately familiar with that movement. And we together continued asking questions and trying to, push the realization of common law and the corporate structure and, our rights and all these different issues that they tended to, not want to be discussing, and caused you and I both to begin to have, questions and concerns about, the
if they were compromised or not, if they're being compromised, somewhere along those lines.
Right. If they had been infiltrated and they're being used as controlled opposition as well. So I've been of that position for a variety of reasons. You remember there were 5 specific reasons that I outlined those concerns, which you agreed with as well, and we just let it go at that. But because Eric Dingus is another piece of the puzzle who, even over a year ago, I told him about them and their documents, and he just never got around to checking it out. But he called me a couple months ago, and he says, Warren, didn't you tell me something about a year ago about the Republic? I said, yeah. He says, well, what was that about again? And then I gave him the names of James Carpenter and James Geiger, and he said, can you give me their numbers so that I can call them and talk to them? He called me back within a couple weeks saying that he'd had several conversations with James Geiger and James Carpenter and some others, and that their paperwork is totally legit as far as he's concerned. And Eric Dingus is a guy that, when it comes to navigating jurisdictions in law, whether it's military, commercial, criminal, maritime law, civil law, he knows his stuff. That's what he's been doing for many, many years. And he had confided in me, Eric did, only a couple weeks ago, that he, in fact, is working for an inner circle that are men in their 60s and 70s, who most of whom were in the military, not all, but many of whom were special forces, many were former military, many of them, all of them are, pro what America was, in the 80s and backwards, they were all about traditional family values, the Bible, Christianity, God in the home, God in the schools, limited government, just good, good old, what we would consider good old traditional real American men in their 70s who know the country has been infiltrated and hijacked by communists and it's going down the tubes, and they started organizing to do something about it, and they have a very tight inner circle, that's the innermost circle, and he works directly for them, and then they vetted another circle outside of them of a variety of people, many that are all vetted, the second circle, and then they created a third ring around that have all been vetted. So we're talking about an organized, righteous effort being put forth by genuine, true Christian American patriots that, again, are pursuing using the law, lawful means and peaceful means to navigate in the different jurisdictions and courts and even world courts, which is what Eric mastered on his own accord over the last 20 to 30 years. So he's an instrument for them. They're using him to get counties unincorporated and to expose and to talk to sheriffs and to, reestablish the constitutional republic. So he's ideal. And when he, got in touch with the republic, he actually told me, he says, Mike, when I spoke to them, he said, they still like you, Mike. They still appreciate you. It's just that they felt when you were coming on the radio show that you were kind of interfering with what they were trying to do. And as you remember, what I was interfering with was pushing the fact that they're talking about this top-down system, and I'm talking about bottom-up common law Exodus 18 model, and because I was pushing those issues when that doesn't even fall in line with what they're about, because they're about the federal structure, the federal government, the senators, the politicians, the united, front. What do you do with that? So it's understandable that, yes, I was interfering, not intentionally, but inadvertently was, according to them, kind of interfering with what their focus was supposed to be on your show. But now, Eric said, because things are getting so heated and hot behind the scenes, and even obviously in the media and in the minds of the American people, he was asked to look into them. He knew I had spoke to him about them. He asked me for their numbers. He said he spoke to them over the course of a week or two, had multiple conversations, and he said he read their documents, and he said it's totally legitimate, and he said that they concur that everything he's doing is right. It is bottom up. They're just trying to fill positions for that upper, federal government structure, that they do concur and agree that it's a bottom up thing that needs to be achieved, and they're waiting for the people to fill those positions. That's what Eric said. So on the same page with the Republic for the United States of America, you've got Eric reaching across the aisle to Rick Martin, who has been over the last decades in his own right masterful as a constitutionalist, as a man just simply standing up for his constitutionally protected, God-given and unalienable rights, and reaching across the aisle with him when he had conflicts with him, reaching across the aisle with David Straight when he had, questions and concerns and issues, many of which were personal with David. Now he's communicating with him, and everybody's kind of coming together because that's what we need to do. Many others, too, names that I am not mentioning now, of people that Eric also knows that he's bringing into the fold. So there's a tremendous effort being put forth right now to get everybody on the same page so that there are more people and more efforts and more energy and more power for standing up the constitutional republic. At one point, Eric indicated that's happening. It's in the process, and they're going to do it, and the de facto is going to accept it because they have no choice. And he said there's about 120 days right now, maybe less at this point, where something's going to be officiated, where he said they're going to give uniforms, they're going to give passports, they're going to give identification to peace officers, and it's all going to be completely bona fide and legitimized and accepted by the Republic. Now, one of the points that David Straight brought up with me, and he's right, is he said in order to do that, you're going to have the approval, the knowledge and approval of the State Department and the FBI. And that's a good statement he made. So that's one of the issues I'm going to be pursuing and looking into, is seeing to what extent there is coordination with the de facto. Because, again, there's either going to be coordination with the de facto, where it's going to be agreed upon and accepted by both sides, this dual jurisdiction reality, or there's going to be bloodshed. That's where we're at. It's that simple. I mean, they have said it in those terms. We don't want war. We don't want to fight. We're standing for our constitutional republic and our God-given, constitutionally protected unalienable rights, and we're doing it lawful, and you guys are going to have to accept it. If you don't, he said that they do have the men in position right now, militia around the country, that are ready to open up. Now, that was a concern for me because, as you know, I'm always on guard about the fact that the New World Order, One World Government agenda people, they want a war. They want an outbreak.
True.
Because the enemy of the New World Order, One World Government people are the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant Christian men and women, men primarily. Those that believe in the Bible, those that believe in traditional family values, those that believe in the Constitution and the Second Amendment, and freedom and self-determination and self-governance. They are the enemy of the people that are trying to establish this New World Order, One World Government agenda. So the New World Order, One World Government agenda themselves, they recognize that they may not be able to carry out their ultimate plans of having total control and jurisdiction over everybody because they're going to have to compromise. They're going to have to compromise and accept.
Yeah.
But they would prefer to use psychological operations to fool as many as they can, like they did on January 6th, in a hope to round up, millions of patriotic Americans. That's what they're about. If they can create a civil war, they'll be happy to do that because they want as many of us that they can kill off as possible. So we have to be leery of that. We have to recognize that we cannot fall into that trap. We cannot fire the first shot. We have to continue pursuing things lawful and peaceful, and we have to continue growing as a unit of like-minded men and women who hold to these principles and these values. So that's the long answer to the question to the person that gave the chat. The short answer is that group, the head of the spear of that group, is having the meetings, which I merged with them. I was the head of my spear, just like David's the head of his spear and Eric's the head of his spear with the inner circles he works for, and James Geiger, James Carpenter, some of those folks, the head of the spear for that movement, is with you as well, assisting them throughout the years. So now we're all coming together, and ultimately, even if, here's the point I made. I recently made a post that it basically said, my message to the New World Order, One World Government agenda. Short of Revelation 21 literal, some glorious kingdom of God is coming down upon the earth, and only those who keep God's commandments and are washed away by the blood of Christ are going to enter in. Short of that reality taking place, the best thing we got going for us, even if it's a alternate New World Order, One World Government agenda scheme to have a couple of different jurisdictions, even if that's the case, that's the best thing we have going for us, short of the kingdom of God coming down per Revelation 21, which I'm all for.
Yeah.
But to the extent that we need to do something, to the extent that in the meantime we need to do something, this is the best thing we got going. We have to support it. And what makes it foolproof, to me, what gives it the most, David Lester Straight and Eric Dingus, who were at odds with one another but are now reaching across the table with one another, are the two instrumentals, because David Lester Straight was one of the greats to get individuals on an individual basis to wake up and be concerned about their status and their jurisdiction, and he woke up millions of people who are now essentially the candidates for what Eric Dingus is doing, getting the counties to start organizing the Exodus 18 model, groups of 30 people that are lawfully organized with the JAG as the authority to enforce I forgot the name of it. He mentions it in the program. But
don't get into too much about that right now. Don't get too much into that with the listeners, because to the average listener out there, the new listener that's tuning in listening, what would you say to them if you're introducing the Thursday night group meeting? Because if these new people come into the group, Mike, and they're not awake at all, or they don't know, or they haven't heard about this, or they don't know about restoring the Republic plan, what would you say to them?
All the answers are at righteousarmy.org. That's a fact, because I made sure over the last few years that everything that was pertinent and substantial is there. And when I say righteousarmy.org, I mean everything that's written on that website, every one of the videos that are on that website, the links that are on that website to the Republic for the United States of America, where you can access their information and see what they're doing, access to your call tonight, access to the Zoom meetings. I'm going to put that on the site. I need to publish that this week regarding the Thursday evening calls. So that's where all the answers are at that website. I made sure to get...
I agree with you. Good answer. Good answer. Most definitely, because people have to understand that this is where it starts. There's not a magic crystal ball where everybody's going to have all the answers. There's not some spaceship that's going to come flying down from Mars that's going to save us. Trump's not going to ride in on a chariot and a horse and save us, or a limousine, whatever. It's up to us, the people, the common, average, ordinary person out there, the guy that's going to work every morning or whatnot or what have you, the average farmer out there that still exists, hopefully, because a lot of them are gone now, and the people that are sitting in the cities that are knowing that they're getting ready to lose their job, or they're looking at the cesspool and the dump that they live in and looking at the destruction of our foundation and our way of life here in America, that are fed up with it and sick and tired of it. Those are the people that we need to come Thursday night to these meetings, and then eventually branch off and have your own meetings in your individual assemblies and states, and reestablish your republic and your states, because that's what it's ultimately about, re-inhabiting the states and the republic. That's what it's about. And we've got to do it, and we can do it. And there are people watching, and there are people, high-ranking people in the military that are fed up, and they understand what's going on. And there's people all over the world that are supporting us, actually, Mike, also. They want America to wake up. They want America not to be, because they know more about the New World Order than we do. So this is what it's all about, folks. And we need you. We need you. Otherwise we're in trouble. We're in trouble. We're in big trouble. And surely everyone agrees we're in big trouble right now. Surely nobody can be happy with the way the country is running right now, or what's going on, See, somebody will send me a question here in the chat room. Hang on. Okay. They actually made a comment there. All right. Thank you. Some people have given you credit there, Mike, and people, that come on the platform saying, good stuff, I guess you could say, support us. It sounds good to them. And that's what we need. We need, and that's great that we're coming across this way. as far as an intelligent and intellectual way that we can bring the message in a smart and common, I guess you could say, common a common way that people could relate to. Because you get these politicians on TV or these politicians in Washington, D.C., district criminals, they talk another language. They're so far out of touch from me and you, Mike, and the American people, they wouldn't know what's going on. You know, they don't understand. They don't know what it's like to get up and go to work every morning. When was the last time one of them stick a shovel in the ground and dug a hole?
Right.
You know, or
they're not working. They're not working. They're not working for the American people. They're working for the bankers. They're working for the for the Fed and the World Banks, and we know who runs those.
Yes. And we don't have to get into that either. You know, and look, we don't have to always harp on that. That's important. I think that's something I'm going to bring up on Thursday. We don't have to keep harping on that because it always spins off and goes into another dialogue when we start pointing out the Jews to the Jews. You know, I mean, we don't need to go into that.
Let me interject on that because, as you know, I was given the mission. You know, I say that kind of jokingly, but half seriously, by God Almighty to expose and identify the Jew psyop, the Jew psyop. And what is the Jew psyop? The Jew psyop, in a nutshell, is the fact that the corrupt criminal people that are running this world, that own the Fed, that own the banks, that are behind it all, that own Hollywood and pump out all the perversion, they're godless people who we can identify with the Bible using Revelation 2:9-3:9, the fake Jews. So they're not even Jews because we got to expose the whole reality of what is a Jew. The word Jew is a word that's only been around a few hundred years that's used to denote an original word, Judaios, which meant somebody from the tribe of Judah or the land of Judea. It was used to denote both. So we're talking 2,000 years ago. They weren't going around saying, oh, he's a Jew. No, they were either from the tribe of Judah or they were somebody from the land of Judea. And the fact of the matter is the biblical prophecies indicate, and they know, the bad seed, the Canaanites, the Edomites, the bloodline of Esau who did not get the birthright. It's all biblical. They knew all along that the prophecies pointed to Yahushua, the Messiah, the Son of God, coming through the line of Judah. And the land of Judea was the land of Judah. So what did they do conveniently? The Edomites and the Canaanites infiltrated and hijacked that land and became what most Christians today know of as the scribes and the Pharisees and the Sadducees. They called themselves Jews, meaning they called themselves as if they were from the tribe of Judah, but they were not. They were imposters. That's what Jesus called them, imposters. And he called them murderers, thieves, and liars. And he said their father is Satan. So that's the group that literally created over the last several 100,000, 2,000 years since the days of Christ have manufactured over the years what we would refer to as the religion of Judaism, because they literally created a spiritual hierarchy where they infiltrated and hijacked the land of Judah, knowing that the Messiah was to come through that land so that they could assert themselves as being the authority for God. How many Christians say the Jews are God's chosen people? Their plan worked. They've got all of Christianity thinking the fake Jews that aren't even from the tribe of Judah, that are imposters, that Jesus called them imposters, they've got the majority of Christians thinking, Jews are God's chosen people. Oh, support Israel. The Israel over there that's a nation state nothing at all to do with the Israelites of the Bible, who was Jacob Israel. God changed Jacob's name to Israel, and the children of Israel, the man, or the people, are the men of God, the men and women of God who walk in his commands and walk in accordance with righteousness and truth. That's Israel. That's not that nation state over there. That's the land that they infiltrated, hijacked, and took over and started their psyop to get people thinking they're it when they're not. Jesus is it. Jesus Christ is it.
Yeah.
And it's almost comical when you think how they've got all these people that claim to be Christians reaching out like they have to help the Jews when the Jews crucified their Savior. It's actually almost a joke.
Listen to this, Mike. Listen to this one. I think Dan, when he comes on, when he's usually here or when he comes on, Dan, he is very well spoken and can bring that message across very clearly and promptly. I think Dan is very, very knowledgeable in these types of things, because we have to be careful how we address these types of things, because a lot of people will, you know, look. It's not that we're scared to offend people, but at the same time, we have a mainstream media out there will take your words right now, Mike, and my words, and twist it around, and you're a Nazi. You're a Nazi. We don't support no Nazi. We don't support that killing of anybody. You know,
they're classic psyops. That's, you know, racism, a psyop. Anti-Semitism, a psyop. LGBTQ, a psyop. You're homophobic. You're a racist. You're an anti-Semite. And then they give all these so-called American Christian patriots to tuck tail and run, because they don't want to be labeled as a white supremacist. They don't want to be labeled. They don't want to fall into the trap. It's a trap that's been set up to keep people at bay, so they will not ask the questions and reveal the truth and take charge of their nation. Because right now the fake Jews have control over this nation. They have control over our government. They have control over the military. They have control over the Vatican. They have control over the world. They're the ones that did it. Yeah. They started it 2,000 years ago, and it's all biblical.
I also want to point
the Bible says they will be eliminated. They will be wiped out. They will be ashes under the soles of your feet. They will exist no more. That's what the Bible says. They're going to be exterminated, all of them. And people, more and more people are waking up to that reality. Even Mike Adams is talking about that reality on his shows now.
Well, I want to also bring up the fact that the Vatican Church, the Roman Empire, also, you know, the Jesuits, very corrupt group, and anyone out there, Chick Publications, if anybody knows about this, there was a guy that defected. He was a high-ranking Jesuit. I think it was in the 1960s and 70s. His last name was Rivera. If you look him up, Chick Publications. This guy exposes a lot about the Pope and the Jesuit, and you know, and let me tell you some of this stuff. Go ahead.
Let me just say quickly, we should all change the word from Jesuit to Jesuit, because again, the fake Jews are the ones. Did they not manipulate Rome 2,000 years ago? Was it not they that coerced Rome into crucifying Christ, the Son of God?
Yeah. You know,
Okay.
It's a lot of this stuff is,
They've been at it from day one.
A long time.
So they have infiltrated and hijacked everything. They infiltrated and hijacked the land of Judea, because it was the land of Judah from whence cometh the Messiah. So they usurped themselves as being the authority and downplayed and shot down Jesus Christ, Yahushua, the Son of God. And now they've continued it over the last 2,000 years by infiltrating into the Catholic hierarchy. The Roman Catholic Church was infiltrated. The Roman Catholic Church was infiltrated and hijacked. Go ahead.
The million-dollar question answer is the evil that's backing up all these men and taking over their minds, their souls, whatever have you, the spirits. There's an evil element that is so powerful. I mean, you know, whatever you want to call it. If you want to call it Satan, fine. You know, whatever you want to call it. You know, the fact of the matter is it's evil. Whatever evil is out there, we've got to be aware of that and be careful.
That's right.
Because it could take, because a lot of people can be seduced by that.
That's
evil. And
but the other point, Joseph, it is important that, and this is my mission, this is what God has blessed me with, is exposing those psyops. The anti-Semitism, the Jew psyop, the racism psyop. The layers of that onion are being peeled away. And I know that the Creator has blessed me with the privilege and the opportunity to be able to peel those layers away over the last couple of years. And I know that the more, that's why it's important that we've been discussing this on your show, because many people will hear what I'm discussing right now and their minds will go, bing, will go off like a light bulb, and they'll look into it and say, wow, everything this guy's saying is 100% provable in truth and accurate. What's going on here? And then they'll start looking at it. And those that seek the truth will find the truth. Those that do not love the truth and seek the truth will not. They will be given a strong delusion. And there will be many so-called Christians, as we know. Jesus Christ said, many will come to me in that day, in those latter days when he returns, and say unto me, look at all the great things we did in your name of Christianity, Jesus. We did all these good works and And we walked by faith and grace, and we fed the poor and we fed the hungry, and we did great works. And he'll say, depart from me, you workers of sin, I never knew you, because they were not into truth. They were not into what the truth is. Only those who love and seek the truth will find it. It's the truth that will set you free, nothing else. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life.
You remember Dr. Peter Ventura, right? You remember him, right? He was actually a close friend of mine for many, 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 many years, almost 30 years. He and I haven't spoken now, and because of this, actually, for a few months now. What else did Jesus say? What else did Jesus say? He will put brother against sister, mother against son, father against daughter, right? Yeah. Friend against friend. What a shame.
The truth is a sword that divides. The truth is a sword that divides.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It's powerful. It's powerful, and it's a shame too, really, that had to be like that. I mean, whether you disagree with him in doctrinal perspective or what have you, or you guys mixed words. I remember you guys having discussions back and forth on this podcast show. And Peter and I, we knew each other. He stayed at my home, many, many times. I mean, we family friends. And now, bam, gone. Just doesn't want. He's gone his own way, and what a shame. Right. But that's the decisions we have to make. I choose the right way. I choose the truth. I choose to do what I feel in my conscience is the right thing to do and stand up for the truth, no matter who.
The reason you're able to do that is because you found it. The reason you're able to do that is because you found it in your heart to say unto God in the privacy of your own life, God, this is what I thought, and this is what I believe, but all of us have been lied to about everything. Please show me. As soon as you open your heart, to God, He'll work with you. You close your heart, that's blasphemy, by the way. Blasphemy of the Holy Spirit is when you do not allow the Spirit in, and you harden your heart because of pride and ego and tradition.
Yep. Yeah. And I took your words, actually. Actually, it was your words, actually. I'm not trying to puff you up because you're on my podcast show right now. But I remember a couple of years ago when you said, look, just seek the truth. Ask God to come into your life and say, hey, look, those that will try to fight and seek the truth for the truth, you will find it. You will find it. It will come to you.
That's right.
And you don't have to go climb mountains to get it, So, and that's very interesting. And that's true. And that is true. 100% accurate, no matter what. That is
crazy.
I don't think I got anybody else on the line here trying to get in. Yeah, I don't think I see anybody else wanting to get in here, actually. 657-383-0616, 657-383-0616 if you want to come on in. Then we got one guy in here. The government wants us to think that New World Order or IA is overrated. Hello, show. Christian was a Roman tax status. Jack Jews, what's that mean? I don't know what he means by that. I don't know what he means by that. I'm here. It was 6 months ago. Had 20 Mexicans just put up a block for the foundation. They put up in 2 days. Okay, I was talking about landscaping earlier. Okay, I was just checking the chat room real quick. I check it from time to time because I get messages on other platforms too. So it's not like I got my eyes glued there. But anybody who wants to join in the conversation here, I don't know how long you're able to stay much more, Mike. Like I said, I had a couple other guests actually scheduled to come on, but I guess they couldn't make it happen sometimes. I did a show last night. That could have thrown it off. I did a Memorial Day show last night. Cool. I actually had a couple Navy SEALs that were on to come on Saturday night. Just, talk about the war and all the garbage they saw. One guy was from SEAL Team 6 actually, and but Mod Talk Radio was down. So just my luck, So and they got other things they got to do. So it's kind of like when I had Taya, what's his name there? I forget his name. Chris Kyle, the guy that died. Taya, his wife. Right. I had her scheduled to come on about 6-7 years ago, and same thing happened. So and her, you have to go to a publicist to get her on. And I didn't like that. So but I was kind of her ready to go. But man, it was a lot of stuff. Like remember the ISIS? Remember the ISIS? Do you think the ISIS was a psyop?
Oh, absolutely. Of course,
over there.
It's CIA generated, man. All of it is. The whole thing of Muslim terrorists is a creation. It's literally a manufactured You know, that just like COVID was manufactured. Terrorism is manufactured. COVID is manufactured. They create a problem so that they can have the solution to implement their agenda. It's just that simple.
Yeah.
9/11 orchestrated. The Gulf War orchestrated. All of it orchestrated. Create a problem so they can give the solution and make money while they do it and kill off some people while they do it.
Mike, well, I got you on the phone. A couple of people asked me, how did your son make out with his case with the remember when he got the driver's license issue and stuff like that? How do you make out with that? If you're able to talk about it.
That's still in the federal courts. My son has 3 cases in the federal courts. He's been like just amazing over the last year. He's become like a private attorney general overnight. I mean, he's been burning the midnight oil just like for over a year. I mean, literally, he'd be up sometimes for 2 days without sleeping. Run into the courthouse and being a firefighter at the same time. And now he's and the firefighting jobs are usually around this time, May to October anyway. So he's probably about to get him deployed again on some fires with a contractor that he works for. But he's also been working on my dad's swamp buggy. My dad has a beautiful swamp buggy that he built. That there's a television show called Swamp People, and Troy, I forgot his last name. Troy, he's a cool guy who is kind of one of the main characters on that show. He comes here to South Florida to hunt snakes, big pythons out in the Everglades, because we have they're not native to here and they're a problem. They've been killing deer and wildlife and they can even take out people's children or dogs or cats. Yeah, it's a big problem with the pythons here in South Florida.
Wow.
Yeah, so they're doing the show. This show's been on television for a few years, but he comes down and they use my father's swamp buggy to do that show, which is kind of cool, because
awesome.
So my son's working on that now. He traded out the big tractor bar grip tires that he had on the buggy. It's a 4-wheel drive buggy, locked rear end differential, limited slip front end, so 4-wheel drive that really pulls. It had big bar grip tires on it that are more than 4 foot tall and 18 inches wide, and he just replaced those with what are called field and turf tires, or sometimes referred to as maxi pads, where they're lower. So the buggy's a little lower, but the tires are much wider, and they don't dig. Like the bar grips will dig into the mud and break axles. We broke 2 axles last summer, man, in a sawgrass pond that we had to walk out of 5 miles, stuck in the middle of the Everglades. We had to
out of
a sawgrass pond, and then down a trail, almost waist deep in some spots, knee deep, pretty much the whole way through, with alligators and everything, man. It was pretty hairy.
Oh, you're crazy.
Yeah, it was. It was hairy. But I've been going out there since I was a kid, so I'm kind of used to it. Most people, would not be able to do that, but you kind of you it's something you kind of get used to. It's always dangerous, but you kind of. Right, might never matter, and you when you're comfortable with the environment, you know what to look for, you know what to be careful about. It's dangerous. My father was walking with his buddy down a trail 10 years ago or so, and my dad didn't see right next to him. He was walking down a buggy trail, and they were all knee deep to waist deep in water, and his buddy was behind him, and my dad was walking and did not see about a 12-foot alligator that was laying on the side of the trail underwater. My dad was already about at the middle part of the body, and his buddy, who was about 6 feet behind him, saw the tail as soon as he came up on the tail. And he said, Gene, stop, like that. And my dad stopped, and thank God he did, because if he kept walking, that gator would have snatched right over and took my dad. Now, this guy, he did shoot the gator in the head and kill it. Yeah, but my dad would have took some damage if not gotten killed, if his buddy didn't see that damn tail underwater. But these guys hunt gators in Louisiana. The show Swamp People, they hunt gators in Louisiana. There's a bunch of them that do it. But Troy Landry, that's his name. He's a character, and he comes out to our camp and uses my dad's buggy. So my son right now has been focusing on that for the last month. He's had to do some repairs on the buggy. So he does keep busy. He's got his things going in the courts where he was burning the midnight oil for months, and now he's working on the buggy. Then he's going to probably be called out to do some fires this summer. So he does keep pretty busy. But he's still working his cases, still working them.
Wow. I didn't know that swamp stuff. Wow, goodness gracious, man, oh man. That's one thing that's scared of me. I can't stand snakes.
Yeah.
No way, man. Especially a two-legged one.
That's because you've been talking about the snakes. That's because you've been talking about the snakes in D.C. for the last 10 years. So you don't like snakes.
Yeah, man. No.
But I am going to go ahead and run now. I just dropped my wife off, and I got to. But thanks for the time again. And I'll talk to you soon. And put out the word about Thursday's meeting. Share that with all your contacts. And go ahead and send me this recording from tonight, and I'll send it out also.
You got it. Not a problem, Mike. Take care. Be safe. Don't
get. God bless you, brother. All right. God bless you. God bless you, listeners. All right. Take care, buddy.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you. All right, there. That was Mike from Righteous Army and the Big Virus Hoax. Go check out the website there. Trust me, you won't be disappointed. It's got all filled with all kinds of information. That's probably the best research that you'll ever find on the internet, with a website with all that information put together. And it's all information that will help you and guide you and expose the New World Order, help you realize what's out there in the New World Order that's out there. So the righteousarmy.org and the Big Virus Hoax. Man, you just got to check out the website, like I said, and then Thursday night we're going to have our meetings, and I'll be putting that up on my Facebook and the links to that, and hopefully as many people as we possibly can get together and start joining in these meetings, so we can eventually, once the meetings get large enough, we can start branching out, and everyone can have their own separate meetings around the country, and start, forming these assemblies and retaking and reestablishing our republic and re-inhabiting the seats that were abandoned during the Civil War, and restore our de jure republic, because that's the only way we're going to fix anything, is to restore common law and make sure we get back to our republic. That's the key, folks. So thanks, Mike, for participating in the podcast. Yeah, I'll send you a link to the podcast once it's edited and cleaned up and all set and ready to go. But, anybody else who wants to join in, 657-383-0616, press number 1, and I will get you on live, unscreened, unedited. So now's the time, because I'll be getting ready to wrap up the show here shortly. And again, if you missed the beginning of the podcast, I did try to reach out again to our criminals in office on the West Coast, try to give them a call to just check in with them. I had some conversation points and complaints I wanted to make, and hey, that's our job. That's supposed to be our job anyway, right? Check up on these criminals, and hey, I want to know what's going on, And matter of fact, you could do that with your local criminals. Just stop in their office, knock on the door, and say, hey, I want to check things out. What's going on here? You're the boss. You're the employer. They're the employee. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise, okay? And always, always, always remember that. That's key, because if our mind is not sharp enough to realize or take charge like that, if we don't have the confidence or the courage to stand up for what's right, then how can we ever have any type of hope or chances to change the wrongs that are being done to us today in this country? Ah, boy, I tell you. I'm going to take about 2 minutes here and see if I can get my other guest on the line here. Give me about 2 minutes, and I'll see if I can get these other. I had 2 other gentlemen that were supposed to come on. I'll get them on for about 15 minutes, hopefully. And believe me, trust me, they got some information that's very, very important. That remember, I talk about things here before the news media gets it. So I've done that many, many times over the years, and even if it's only 20 minutes before the corporate news media gets it. So please, I'll be back in 2 minutes.
All you ever hear about in this country is our differences. That's all the media and the politicians are ever talking about, the things that separate us, things that make us different from one another. That's the way the ruling class operates in any society. They try to divide the rest of the people. They keep the lower and the middle classes fighting with each other so that they, the rich, can run off with all the fucking money. Fairly simple thing, happens to work. Do you know anything different? That's what they're going to talk about. Race, religion, ethnic and national background, jobs, income, education, social status, sexuality. Anything you can do, keep us fighting with each other so that they can keep going to the bank. You know how I describe the economic and social classes in this country? The upper class keeps all of the money, pays none of the taxes. The middle class pays all of the taxes, does all of the work. The poor are there just to scare the shit out of the middle class. Keep them showing up at those jobs.
They're all the same. I'll show you politics in America. Here it is, right here. I think the puppet on the right shares my beliefs. I think the puppet on the left is more to my liking. Hey, wait a minute. There's one guy holding up both puppets. Shut up. Go back to bed, America. Your government is in control.
I have this feeling, man, because you know there's a handful of people actually run everything. That's true. It's provable. It's not I'm not a conspiracy nut. It's provable. Handful, very small elite run and own these corporations, which include the mainstream media. I have this feeling who's ever elected president, like Clinton was, no matter what your promises you promise on the campaign trail, blah, 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 when you win, you go into this smoky room with the 12 industrialist, capitalist scumfucks who got you in there, and you're in this smoky room, and this little film screen comes down, and a big guy in a cigar rolled a film. And it's a shot of the Kennedy assassination from an angle you've never seen before. It looks suspiciously off the grassy knoll. And then the screen goes up, and the lights come up, and they go to the new president. Any questions? Just what my agenda is. First we bomb Baghdad. You got it.
All right, everybody. Joseph Gibson podcasting here in Greensboro, North Carolina. Phone number 657-383-0616. Press 1. You got to press 1 if you want to come on. Let's see here. We got a couple news stories here we want to talk about. And let me check something out here. Okay. Let's see here. You got actor Dennis Quaid says he will vote for Trump in response to weaponization of justice system under Biden. That's pretty big. I pretty much stayed away from the Trump saga there in that trial. But, the weaponization of the courts is nothing new to people like you and I. They've been doing it for years. But to Donald Trump, now it's finally being exposed. Because the guy really committed no crime. What crime did he commit? What crime really did he commit? And you can discuss this with a liberal. Well, you can't discuss it with a liberal. You'll get into an argument with a liberal. And they just can't see this. They just don't see this. I mean, it's insane. But today, Trump trial, closing statements begin today. The prosecution still can't identify what crime Trump committed. So what crime did he commit? Did anybody tell me? I sure would like to know. Kevin O'Leary warns leftist tyrants plunging America into economic depression. Denver police to dispatch drones to 911 calls instead of cops. There you go. You got drones coming now to your 911 calls. How about that? True story. That's what's happening soon. So look for drones when you call 911. I don't call 911. I don't believe there's anything that I need them for. If I had a house fire, I guess I'd call the fire department. But as far as anything else, if I have a break-in, I can handle things on my own. I don't need anybody. I don't need their help. This right here, a special report, Trump is going to win in a landslide. That's what Bannon says. Steve Bannon, I don't know about him sometimes. I don't know. Who knows? I just don't like his face. I mean, I don't know. Let's see. Massive explosion rocks Chase Bank building in Ohio. Maybe that's why Tabe didn't call in tonight, maybe, huh? He's from Ohio. Yeah, I think of everybody. Let's see here. Pakistani illegal admits crossing border for work, not asylum. Says no big deal when told it's unlawful. That's what he says. Who cares if I'm breaking the law, right? Let's see here. Liberals, Jaws star Richard Dreyfuss, sexist and homophobic over recent Q&A. Let's see here. Central banks are destroying our economies, and I've been talking about that for 30 years. Let's see here. Gold, yes, U.S. devalues cash. So let's see. The satanic interdimensional overthrow explained. That should have been interesting. I should have played that tonight. That would have been a good one. Your movie sucked. Robert De Niro blasted by MAGA supporters at Biden. I'm not. See, I'm not gonna. Robert De Niro, even though he's a jerk off stage or off the camera, I like his movies. I like Robert De Niro. I think he's a good actor. I'm not gonna do what liberals do. Ignore the truth. So that's shouldn't do that. That's wrong. Don't do what they do. Sonic mind control on U.S. citizens. Those are stories maybe I'll touch up on here next week. Over 600,000 Texans lose power near Dallas as another huge storm rips through America. Hey, end times, as the Bible says, right? You look at the number of tornadoes. It's not because of global warming, because earthquakes, in diverse places. Let's see, 1,236% increase in deaths following COVID vaccination. There you go, huh? Get your shot. Get it. Come on, get it. Women who become men become post-menopausal, study shows. Trump is going to win in the landslide. I already said that one there. Male drag artist dances for kids at Vatican World Children's Day. How about that, huh? Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that beautiful? Let me click on that one there. That's just beautiful. Amazing. Male drag artist dances for kids at Vatican's World Children's Day. Look at this. Boy, I wish you guys could see this. Catholics have expressed horror after a male performance artist danced in drag and for young children during Pope Francis' first World Children's Day this weekend. On May 25th, Salerno native Carmine De Rosa performed as one of the official artists for the inaugural World Christians Day. In his capacity as a quick change artist or a living cartoon, De Rosa appeared as a woman wearing multiple outfits in drag. He also used suggestive cardboard costumes. Children sat in a circle around De Rosa as he performed. His demonstration took place at Rome's Olympic Stadium, where later in the day Pope Francis met with thousands of young children from across the world. Wearing a pink dress with a plunging neckline, De Rosa commented on the excitement he felt as being invited to take part in the World Children's Day. Oh, my God. We are gone. We're gone. I mean, this is disgusting. All right, 330, you're on. You're unmuted. 330. You're there. You put your hand up. 330.
Yeah, we got banks blowing up in Ohio. We got transgender dancers. We got everything you want here in the state, the heart of it all.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
I see that. What happened with the bank, man? I heard a bank blew
I don't know.
Over there. That's why I'm just saying. Did you feel it or see
Who knows? It's probably just the economy dropping and the bank fell down. Who knows?
Probably. You missed it. I just had Mike on for about an hour.
Oh, did you? What do you have to say?
No, I'm just promoting the Righteous Army and talking about stuff. Thursday night, the meeting, I guess. Everybody's going to, put the word out, I guess, about the meeting for Thursday, I guess. I don't know if you have the link or not to the meeting, but
yeah.
I guess everybody's got the green light now to start letting in the civilians. So so let them in and maybe, hey, gotta let the civilian population in, But, yeah, I mean, I don't see I don't know how much we're going to accomplish with this, to be honest with you. It's not as big as what we were doing because we don't have we had the military really, really, really stepping up back then. And we had we had Ron Paul back then, and that brought a lot of names out of the woodwork. So I don't know how this restoring the republic thing is going to go. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. What do you think?
It can't be any worse than not doing it, right, or not trying.
Well, yeah. But, I mean, we kind of called them out anyway. Remember, because we were talking about the militia meetings we were having there, and how they went dead, and we wanted to bring them back. So, I think that if we keep pushing and maybe just not give up, just maybe, we can finally figure out how we can get more than 11 people. Like I always say, we can't get more than 10 people to meet at Burger King for coffee. Let alone try to change the country.
All that shit we talked all that time for almost 3 years, and I think we had maybe one person call in that was actually military active duty, and I don't even think that there was maybe a handful that were veterans. I don't understand it. I didn't understand that at all, why there was just no drive. I mean, and Mike can talk. I mean, he knows how to put on he's definitely a good speaker. He knows what he's talking about. He's convincing. So, I mean, it's not like that it was just trying to listen to some rum-dum. That's not even the case.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah,
I know the podcast shows have gone to hell in a handbasket. I mean, we started doing pretty good there where we got a good group together and, all these different podcast shows and started getting everybody on the same page, but it's falling apart. I can see, because I don't see too many people from the other podcast shows, tuning into my show or tuning into each other's shows anymore like they did.
They don't. I mean, if they do, they sit back in the chat room and talk shit if they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it turns into a general hospital episode. All we're doing is talking nonsense. I mean, really, it's just to entertain. All we're doing is just getting on the phone with each other and gossiping. We don't have any plan. We don't have any direction.
Yeah.
I mean,
now,
I just don't see.
I didn't turn the news on or anything today. I went and down a trailer and trying to buy a truck, but whatever happened with Trump? Did they do anything with him?
I don't know. I haven't heard anything. I don't know. If anybody's got any information on the Trump trial, you please call in and let me know. I didn't turn on the TV at all today,
weren't they?
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, we're closing arguments.
Okay. Right.
So maybe we'll have a verdict by tomorrow.
Well, shit.
How long does it take for closing arguments, Dave? How long does it take? If that was you or me, we would have been done in 10 minutes.
Sometimes it'll take a day. It depends. But the thing is, once it gets tossed to the jury, then they'll sit on it because it's either going to be they know the outcome already, and they're going to if it's going to favor Trump, they're going to they'll fire it out on Friday because nobody pays attention to the news on Friday. Now, if it comes out it's his ass, then they'll probably go right with it the next Thursday or Monday. But they always do that with news articles that are important. They shoot them on Friday if they're if anything that we want to talk about, because most of the shit they talk about ain't worth nothing. I'd rather watch cars rust.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah.
But that's how they release
again.
That crap.
Yeah. Well, again, if anyone missed the first hour of the show, Mike was on there, and again, Thursday is the meeting for where we're getting the Restore the Republic thing going again, and where we can, and again, we're trying to get it where everyone can branch off, get enough people in each state where then everybody can have their own little meet, because we want not a top-down thing. We want a bottom-up type of thing. Start locally,
right.
Locally, and branch out from there. So form your assemblies, and look, we got to take back our local governments. We have to. And Eric's going around trying to unincorporate these towns and municipalities out there because we have to. I mean, there's a plan set here to restore our republic. There's a plan set forth. If we use the plan, we'll get back to our original Constitution and republic the way. I mean, wouldn't that be great, man, to have back our country? Wouldn't it be nice? I mean, I don't think nothing will be perfect, and we ain't going to have heaven on earth. But look, man, it'll be a lot better than what we have now. And we're not trying to overthrow the government either. I don't want anybody taking that idea. This is all lawfully done through the polls and elections and whatnot. It's all done lawfully.
Well, here's one thing we got to think about right now. As it says, as of March 20, 2021, 11 states were considered sanctuary states, including California, Colorado, Connecticut, Illinois, Massachusetts, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, Oregon, Vermont, and Washington. So now you can write them gone. You can't even talk to anybody in them about trying to do anything because they're already committed to being yes. So now that's 11 states. Now I'm going to look up how many fucking, because I'm in a city, not the states now, but the city is, and I don't understand how the city can declare that these bums I got down here. I got a Muslim mayor. Is a piece of turd.
Oh wow! How did you get a
years
Muslim
old,
mayor?
We got it's so. Akron is, I call it Crackrin, the sanctuary shitty.
Wow. You know, well, it's we're seeing it. I mean, look at where I ran for a public office here in North Carolina. What has my representative done with the guy ran against? What has he done? He's done nothing. He's out there talking to the people.
Doesn't he have to swear on the Bible? Because I don't think he swore on the Quran. So what does that mean? That don't mean shit if he's doing that, because it's like putting your right hand up when you testify in court. You don't see them guys going to court. Sharia law type, it don't matter to them. In God we trust. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, I called that out, with the Minnesota, the Rashid woman there in Minnesota. When I called there, I called citizens up, and I remember I did a show with that, and called up there and found out about that. Try to find out about that. When they take that oath. What are you swearing to then? If you're a Muslim, how could you swear? How could you put your hand on the Bible then? They don't. That's
right.
So isn't that a lawful? Isn't that a requirement that you have to swear on the Bible? To take office.
We got to think about this though too. We're talking about a government now that lets one of the standing members in Congress wear a freaking Israeli outfit, a uniform, into the Capitol building, and then they let Zelensky drop the Ukraine flag in the Capitol building. That's against there's a law against that.
That's treason. Yeah.
My God.
Yeah, the Flag Act, I think. Yeah.
You can't make this shit up. What goes on?
You just can't make it up.
The District of Columbia is. We need to put a barbed wire fence around the top, razor wire across the top of all of Washington, D.C., board it up, lock the door, and throw away the keys. I don't care who's in there.
Yeah.
They're useless.
Well,
they don't answer our laws.
And again, talking about our podcasting shows here with all the hosts and everything,
Joe.
This is ridiculous.
God, Joe. As of July 2023, 200 cities, counties, and states in the United States have declared sanctuary cities.
Over 200?
200 of them. Over 200.
Wow. So are they now? How do you get undeclared? That's what I'd like to know. How you get undeclared? How do they reverse that? Because once they declare sanctuary cities, I think there's something called in law where that if there's illegal immigrants in there and then they undeclare it, I think that they're grandfathered in somehow where then it doesn't matter. Then they get to stay there. It's called the ex post facto. I'm not sure how that works, but it's kind of like they change the drinking age. Let's just say like a drinking age is 18 and they change it to 21. Well, those people are grandfathered in. They don't have to, that are 18, they can still buy alcohol legally. You know what I mean? Because they're grandfathered in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm wondering how that would work. So it doesn't matter what Trump does then when he's elected, if that's the case. That's what I'm trying to get at here. That's the point I'm trying to make. If he changes some things, I don't know.
Where do you draw? I'm trying to figure out, where. I just don't understand how if the federal government has, to protect our borders and not let an invasion happen, when something goes on like we've witnessed. We're talking about a full-blown invasion. It's not a couple hundred,
20 million people.
Millions, right. And they let these, I give up. I just want out of here.
They had there was a guy that I knew, he's in jail now. He was one of the militia guys that got arrested, Barry Croft. And his best friend was this guy named Casey, and he discovered something. He exposed something down at the border, and they killed him. And that's why. And then so they were after Barry already, and they were involved with the militia down there at the border, and they're patrolling. And they found something out with the border agents. I think they're smuggling in fentanyl or drugs or something. I forgot what it was, but it was something big. And I stayed away from it because I had other things going on. I didn't want to but I remember Barry Croft talking about it. But then he got wrapped up with that governor crap, with that Whitmer crap, and ended up in prison for 18 years. So,
right.
But my point is that down there at the border, these border agents or someone within one of the 3-letter agencies, I don't know if it was that gun thing that they were doing with Eric Holder, the Fast and Furious program, I don't know, but they caught them doing something down there, the militia, and they whacked that kid KC. They killed him, and then 2 other guys they put in prison. So what I'm trying to get at here is that when you whistleblow or you find something out, they come after you, man. So this scares off a lot of people from standing up and doing the right thing, building the righteous army or whatnot. And we have to tell people, the founding fathers pledged their lives, fortunes. They're willing to sacrifice. We talk about the founders. You have to be the same way. You have to be willing to stand up, fight for what's right, sacrifice, and put yourself out there. And like me and Mike were just talking about, open yourself up to your Creator God, and and say, use me whatever way you want to, God. Because if God's for you, or who could be against you? I mean, you got to. That's how I see it. I mean, surely in the end you'll be blessed because you're doing the right thing. I mean, if you're living to do the wrong thing, in the end you something bad, nothing good's going to come out of it. Even if you have good things happening for you right now, nothing in the end bad is going to happen to you. So doing the right thing, eventually good is going to come your way, I would imagine, I got a private caller here who wants to get in here. Let me bring him on. Private caller, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Hello?
Who we got? Private caller, go ahead.
Okay, I think I came in just as I came in just as the question was asked about the sanctuary city thing. How do you undo it? Well, it depends on what the method to promulgate the sixth sanctuary city was. If it's a state law that allows a city to declare itself a sanctuary city, well, that's one thing. If it's a city ordinance that allows a mayor or the city council to declare itself a sanctuary city, that's another. Yeah. If the mayor by an executive action, that's another. So you got to find out how the law was set up and instituted in the first place. Then you'll know how to get rid of it.
I just found this right here. It says these cities, counties, and states have laws, ordinances, regulations, resolutions, policies, or other practices that obstruct immigration enforcement and shield criminals from ICE, either by refusing to or prohibiting agencies from complying with ICE detainers, imposing unreasonable conditions on detainer acceptance, denying ICE access to interview incarcerated aliens, or otherwise impeding communication or information exchanges between their personal and federal immigration officers. Basically, it's a rogue city that needs stomped.
This goes back to a line of argument that me and Joe were having. See, here's the thing about federalism and parallel jurisdiction. Now, the federal government cannot order any state or locale to involuntarily cooperate and enforce the law, and that's well established. That's how they get away with it. Cooperate in enforcing federal law. It is up to the federal government. Federal law.
Okay,
they can volunteer to assist the federal government if they wish, but they can't force them to. Similarly, the states cannot prevent the federal government from enforcing federal law anywhere in the United States. So it's kind of like a catch me, pull me, push you kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Sarge, you were a state trooper. Sarge, you were a state trooper.
Yes.
If the feds came in, they take jurisdiction over you, right?
No, they don't. It depends on what the issue is. They don't. Why do people assume this? Just because the federal government is supposed to be, quote, higher, unquote, they're not. The Constitution gives the state powers. It gives the federal government powers. You look at the Constitution and you see, where does the power lie? Or is it a concurrent power? It would be a concurrent power, for instance, if the federal government is coming there to investigate a bank robbery of a federally deposit-insured bank, because the federal government has passed laws saying robberies are federal crime. But the state also has laws forbidding bank robbery. See what I mean? You got two jurisdictions, and they both have concurrent jurisdiction in a matter like that. So you got to look at the Constitution, then you got to look at the law. That'll tell you who has the authority.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, I guess it's kind of a little confusing, though, still to most average people
it's not. It's really not confusing. All you got to do is look at that little guidebook, that 48-page document, depending on who prints it for you, 48, 50, 52 pages. You look at that, and you can pretty much figure out where the authority is. States aren't powerless, neither is the federal government. The only distinction is that the Constitution gives specific few enumerated powers to the federal government, and it gives an almost unlimited amount of power to the states and the people who live in them.
All right.
That's what we got to keep in mind. Most of the power is with the state, not the federal government. It's not supposed to be that way. But again, wait a minute. But here's the problem. Here's the problem I have with about what I'm hearing. This scheme that not scheme, but this philosophy that the righteous army is putting out seems to indicate that they can give a sheriff veto power over legitimate constitutional actions of the federal government, and that clearly cannot be allowed under federal separation of powers any more than forcing a sheriff to enforce federal law. Can't do either.
Well,
and remember, when I say a sheriff, remember, when I say a sheriff, I'm talking about the legitimate federal functions of the federal government that are constitutional, the legitimate ones. I'm saying that, you can't have a sheriff vetoing a legitimate federal enforcement function. That couldn't be allowed.
Okay. All right. And matter of fact, okay, Mike, I'm gonna bring you back. I'm gonna bring on Mike here.
I mean, you got to remember. I know you guys refer to the Northwest Ordinance. I've researched the Northwest Ordinance. I got a book about it. I read it. I read its history, what its attempt was to do. Remember, the Northwest Ordinance was promulgated and instituted in July of 1787 under the One House Continental Congress under the Articles of Confederation. Remember that. That's important to remember. You can't ignore it. It was superseded to a great extent, but not completely, by the adoption of the Constitution in September of 1787. The Supreme Court said
we bring Mike on
that the states. Remember what it was done for, Joe? It was done to control the admission of new states and create new states in the Northwest Territory to allow a method for admitting them into the Union. That's what it was for.
Okay. All right, time out. Let me bring Mike on to answer that then. Go ahead, Mike.
Hey, Sarge. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing fine. How about you?
How you doing, Mike?
Good, thanks. Hey, good, Ted. How are you, brother?
Good.
Yeah, thanks for bringing me back on. I was just listening in, and when I heard Sarge make what was really a misleading statement, I couldn't help but push one and come back in. Because what you said there was very misleading, again, in the way that you phrased it, Sarge, to indicate that the righteous army says that a sheriff can override the Constitution. We've never indicated that. To the contrary, we've indicated that the sheriff uphold our constitutionally protected rights, which are unlimited, which you were right on that part. The power does lie with the people. So there can be no law that supersedes the will of the people. And this is a big part of why a lot of the confusion and contradictions that exist are precisely because of the federal overlay that was not only initially put in, but really exacerbated over the last 100 years, where they've literally mirrored it and turned it upside down. The true reflection is we, the people, are the sole power and authority. Under that is our local jurisdiction, which our constitutional sheriff and posse comitatus can enforce any opposition or invasion to the will of the people in that community. And then, of course, the state, and that includes the state because the people make up the state as well. It's the people that are the state. In fact, the Supreme Court ruled that the people in the state are one and the same. A lot of people think of the state. They think the state is some, which actually it is now. It's a corporation. There's literally a state that's a corporation with their little minions, and most people think they have the power when they don't. The people do. But the state, the Supreme Court has ruled, the people are the state of the people. It's one and the same. It's the people. So that is what the state is. And the federal government. So again, in a nutshell, we've said this a million times over. It's the people on top, local jurisdiction, then the state, which is the people, and then the federal government with their limited powers, which cannot override the will of the people. So I mean that's why the movement exists now for everything that's being done with the Republic for the United States of America, and really poignantly and specifically what Eric Dingus has been working towards, and he's definitely the front man in that regard, with regards to getting the people to take back their authority and their power on a local level, because that's where it lies. Now, I hate to throw another complex thing into the conversation. I'm almost doing it for fun, but there's another issue at hand. I'll just throw it out there because it probably needs to be heard. There is how should I say it, a question? To me, it's not a question. It's obvious. Most people think when they hear we the people do ordain for ourselves and our posterity, they think that means anybody that's living on this land.
No, it doesn't.
We the people, it was written by we the people who said we and our posterity. So only the founding fathers and the colonists that existed with them at that time and their bloodline descendants are we the people.
Yes,
and the Supreme Court
posterity of people that haven't been born yet.
Right. Well, yeah. So the Supreme Court has ruled that there's a bloodline group of people in this nation that are the posterity. So you have really kind of three things going on. You have the thing that we discuss frequently, this corporate, de facto corporate system. The federal government and the states and even the counties have Dun and Bradstreet numbers. They are corporations. They have no lawful authority over a living man or woman anywhere, period. And then you have, next to that, the reality of the constitutional republic that many are trying to stand up to defend and to reestablish with, our original Constitution, and our constitutionally protected, God-given, unalienable rights. But the power is with us. But there's actually another third layer, which is very few people are aware of it. Very few people have challenged it or tried it because it's been pretty well run over, But I know some brilliant minds that articulate not only the Constitution but the laws and rulings that the Supreme Court has made, indicating, in fact, that the posterity, we the people. It's a very select few people, and it's based on bloodline. It's not just anybody that lives here. Now, people can become as David Lester Straight has been doing, a state national, meaning I don't accept your corporate construct. I'm a living man or woman, and that's my declaration of status as a living man upon the land, not subject to your maritime jurisdiction. I have God-given unalienable rights. That could be anybody. That could be somebody that just comes over here and just became, a citizen. There's a difference between a state national and a state citizen. The state citizen is the one who works the body politic, and only the posterity bloodline can be a legitimate state citizen. And they're the ones that would set the law. They are the authority. They're the ultimate authority. And what confirms everything I just said right now is not only Supreme Court finding rulings, but the Treaty of Paris. The Treaty of Paris,
right.
The king absolutely says that, yes, these men established this nation for themselves and their posterity, and they are equal to kings. They are equal to royal bloodline. They have the same immunities, all immunities, as any king. And that does not apply to every person.
And as you know, the Northwest Territory was ceded to the United States in the Treaty of Paris, and that was, again, it was a plan to incorporate the Northwest Territory as state. And the Supreme Court in 1851, so Joe, that's before 1871. Keep it in mind now, before this ruling in 1851, Supreme Court, I think it was Statler versus United States. I might have the United States part wrong, but anyway, Supreme Court said that the Northwest Ordinance applied, and all of the rights and appurtenance under that ordinance applied to those states, to those territories. But once they became states, the Northwest Ordinance no longer applied to them as states. It had to do with them being admitted, and it only applied to the Northwest Territory.
That's why we're using
how do you do that?
Re-implement.
So you're saying you're going to re-implement it how? By amendment or how?
Amendment? What
First
do you
of all,
mean?
you'd also
First
of all, you also have to make the distinguishment between the state and the state, because that's another thing the Supreme Court has ruled on planes of states, persons of different states. You can live in the state of Florida, the corporate construct, and be in a different state, the republic. There are two different states. So, and then you have also the Supreme Court finding that the people are the state. So, most people are kind of stuck in their thinking. We've been conditioned that way our whole lives to think of the state as being some boundary that you see on a map, and it's a corporate construct, and it has a bunch of politicians that run it, and they're the power, and they're the state. That's the furthest thing from the truth. That's the illusion they've created so that they can get the power and control they have, and that little house of cards is what's falling on them right now, and they know it.
Now, if you're going to re-implement the Northwest Ordinance, if you're going to re-implement it, how are you going to implement it essentially unchanged, except for perhaps date, or will there be some modifications based upon the changes that have come in the wake of the adoption of the Constitution and the 27 amendments to it? How is it going to be? How is it going to be crafted?
Okay, first let me just say I would yield to greater minds than my own. I know those minds are out there. I know a few of them personally. I know there's others that I know of that are the minds that are much more acquainted with that strategy process and how it works. I'm still learning myself. We're all on different levels. I just know that everything I've said thus far is 100% accurate and true. And ultimately, everything hinges upon everything I just said to begin with. So a lot of this stuff is conjecture, and how are you going to do this and how are you going to do that? And sometimes some of the answers to that come right back to the points that I just made. So right now there's a process that's going on, a genuine process to re-inhabit, stand up the original constitutional republic for the United States of America. And even in that movement, there's a division of posterity, because there are people in that movement that think posterity means anybody living on this land, and there are others that know that that's not the case. And these are some of the fine details that Eric Dingus does not want to address for good reason. He doesn't like to address them. He's often told me, off, camera or off the phone in private, he agrees with everything I'm saying, but a lot of what I say that he agrees with, he cannot address and talk about, because that's going to cause further confusion and division for people that are just completely in the dark about all of this. So he's keeping it as simple as he can, just based on the simple message of self-governance, and that every person on the planet is entitled to that self-governance. This whole thing of communist nations and countries is itself a ruse from the same people who have infiltrated and hijacked the U.S. government. The Cold War, a ruse. Russia, our enemy, a ruse. All of it. They create these narratives and these imaginary wars, and again, they train little children. They have been for the last several decades on computers to be little warmongers playing their video games with shooting and killing, and they're trying to get as many people as they can sucked into that mindset so they can use and abuse them and kill them and leave fatherless, children and wives, without husbands and fathers.
Well, I got another question though I got another question about this posterity.
Real quick, sorry, I got another caller here. Go ahead.
Yeah, this posterity argument. Given the fact that the largest single ethnic group in the United States is people who claim Germanic ancestry, and Germanic peoples were rather minimal at the time of the Constitution. Maybe some Hessians decided to stay on, and a few others. Baron von Steuben maybe, but most of them were not here. Most of the Germanic people who were descended from Germanic people came here in the middle of the 18th century. How will you determine the bloodline of the original people who were supposed to be included in this posterity? How will this be determined?
Well, my son has completed fully our patent of nativity, which goes all the way back to Gusen-Gerenberg, our patriarch, great-great-great-great-grandfather, being here in the 1600s, before the United States of America as a nation even existed. So theoretically, no, lawfully, my family, me, my son, me, my father, everybody in my bloodline is actually immune. We have immunity in the same way that the Indians had. They were natives. I'm just as much a native of this land as an American Indian is, because my family's
I understand that, but I'm sure you will agree that the great majority of people of Germanic descent came here in the middle of the 19th century. So they certainly could be considered in its original.
So what I'm saying is, in my case, I'm just saying in my case, we have a patent of nativity that goes all the way back, and there are many people that can do that. There's some people that need to be doing it. They should wake up and start doing it because it means a lot, and many more people are doing it. But there's processes that can be taken to make those determinations, and when people make the determination, they can stand rightfully in their place that they're meant to be in.
Yeah. All right. Let me take this next caller here. 40407. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is Nathan in Orlando. One thing that keeps catching me, I'm not as smart as the next guy, so I'm still trying to figure it out. But everybody seems to think that it gets settled when it goes to the Supreme Court. I've read Article 3, and the only thing I see is Congress limits the court. If the court sees something, they can declare what the Constitution and the law says, but they cannot change the law. Their ruling does not make something the rule of the law, the land. It goes back to the Congress to consider. Remember in the first part of the Constitution where it says Congress and the Senate shall be the only one that makes law?
Well, they're the only one. They make the laws, right? No, they make the laws. But when the Supreme Court rules, that is law. That becomes law.
No, it isn't. Not in according. I can't read anything in here that shows me that. It's an
interpretation. I can hear how you're interpreting it. I can see where people would purposely even mislead people by making that interpretation of only the Congress and Senate shall make laws. No, they will make and pass laws. The Congress comes up with the laws. They're supposed to be doing it on behalf of the people as representatives, which they don't. That's another story. And then the Senate passes. Now the president can veto or approve it. Once it's approved, it's law. And that when the Supreme Court rules, the Supreme Court findings are the law of the land. That's a fact. They don't
make the laws. Can you show me that? And can you show me that written in Article 3?
Yeah, hold on a minute. I just actually got home. Let me walk in. My son is more well-versed on this than I, because, again, I know what I know, but other people, just like I was saying with Sarge, there's other people out there that are more versed, right, in having read more fine details
hang on real
for a much
quick.
longer
Guys, got
time.
90 seconds left to call in. Guys, 90 seconds to call in because those that are listening over via the internet. 657-383-0616, so you may get cut off because you got to listen live to the phones, okay? All right, go ahead. Mike.
Yeah, I'm going to walk in the house, get my son, see if I can get an answer for the man on that. You go ahead and put me on.
Okay. I'm not going to mute you. But, all right, let's see here. Let me see here. There's something another point I wanted to bring up here real quick. Again, 657-383-0616. Press 1, or just listen in by calling in. Otherwise, you won't be able to get paid. Remember, if you get disconnected off the phone within the next minute, you won't be able to get back in. So don't hang up, guys. All right, we'll go a little bit over here tonight. Sarge, any other points? I know I cut you off there. Anything else you want to add here on that other point that you were trying to make?
Well, yeah, there's a whole lot to tell you about this thing. Look, I share everybody's discomfort with the present state of affairs. Ain't no doubt about it. We're straying away from the Constitution more and more every day. Or whatever is done has to be done. But I just like to say this. I'd like to keep this uppermost in everybody's mind, no matter what we do. Short of a revolution, the Constitution of the United States is the supreme law of the land over and above all of the laws. I mean, secularly, I'm talking about as a matter of legality. I'm not talking about, higher law, transcendence of the divine. I'm talking about what man sets up as law. So as long as we keep that in mind, that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, then I say go for it. Do what you got to do to restore the constitutional balance.
Okay. All right. Okay, I missed one part there that you had. There's something else I wanted to bring up. I'm pulling up the documents there that I sent out to a few people because it addresses some of these issues actually that the Republic actually got that sent out. That's back from 2010. But anybody else who wants to chime in, press 1. I know a bunch of people just called in. I won't connect you unless you press 1. Because I know a bunch of people are just listening in. And this is an important subject, and these are important questions, Sarge, that you're bringing up, and Nathan brought up. Very important questions, because these are questions that have to be, I like what Nathan said, show me in the Constitution where it says it. Very important, because this is, these are issues that we have to, and hurdles that we have to get over.
Yeah,
so
Joe, excuse me, Joe, but
go ahead.
Joe, there is something I'd like to say about what Nathan said, because he's addressing a very important point, and that point is legitimacy of the Supreme Court to make rulings on the Constitution. They themselves granted themselves in 1803 in Marbury versus Madison. That's why we get the Supreme Court deciding on these matters. Whether we like it or not, that's pretty much established since 1803. They rule on these things. But I'd like everybody to know the number of times throughout history they have reversed precedent. They did it with homosexual marriage. They reversed Lawrence versus Texas, and Bowers versus Hardwick, and then Obergefell. In 3 rulings within 2 decades, they reversed themselves twice. So I mean, look,
I'm back.
I don't appreciate a Supreme Court that acts as an ongoing constitutional convention. That ain't right either.
Okay.
Yeah,
Mike, go ahead.
I'll just confirm with my son, who's been looking at an awful lot of Supreme Court findings as well. And basically, he concurs. I concur with what Sarge said to the other gentleman that was speaking there. That again, it is the laws are passed and made by Congress and the Senate. And once the president does not veto it and he passes it, that is the law. And the Supreme Court rules on the law. That's what they rule. That is the law of the land. And that's Sarge gave good examples of it, because they can rule no homosexual marriages, and then you get another group of liberal-minded, progressive, Supreme Court judges, and they decide to hear the case again, and then they reverse it. So they're the ones. The Supreme Court itself is what is manipulating the laws ultimately, because once the laws are passed or made, they are law. But yes, they can be overturned by another. That to me, that's a problem in itself, because this is one of my pet peeves on why in my opinion, in a Christian constitutional republic, there should only be a certain group of people permitted to even be in politics or be in office, because you can't let any liberal, progressive, homosexual. I can marry my dog and have sex with my dog, and maybe I'll even have baby puppy people, because that's what I want to do, and I'm a Supreme Court justice and I'm ruling over your ass. That's sick shit. That's evil.
Yeah.
No, there are people that should not be permitted to be in positions of government. And frankly, if Dan was here, it, Joseph, I hate to hurt anybody's feelings, but again, the original constitutional republic of the United States of America was a white nation created by white people for white people. That's a fact.
And it was the posterity, which, again, was the people that created this nation. And that's why people say, oh, no, nobody said that. Well, there were a couple of forefathers that said it. And they'll say, okay, it was only 2 of them said it, so that was an opinion. People can go back and forth on that opinion. But the point is, at the time, we know that all of them even agreed, even with regards to Negroes, right, to the black race of people, that they were only a third of a human was the verbiage they used, but that was only to state in their realm, in their nation, that's the way they rule it. Just like if I were to go over to Africa and it's nothing but black people, and they say, hey, who's this white guy? I mean, he's only half of what we are. More power to them. They got every right to say that. I don't have the right to go over into the land of China and tell the Chinese how to run their life. I don't have the right to go into the land of the black Negroes and tell them how to run their life. I don't have the right to go into the land of the Indians. The Indians got screwed over more than anybody. And the Indians got double screwed because they also were manipulated into signing treaties where they essentially gave away their rights forever, where they basically are screwed. They got no way of getting their rights back. Whereas with the people, the posterity, like I said, with the Treaty of Paris, we're locked in. And that's just a certain group of people. And again, the Supreme Court ruled that's a bloodline of people. So a lot of these issues, these are the things that Eric Dingus doesn't like to discuss for understandable reasons.
Nathan wants to say something. Go ahead, Nathan.
So you're saying that we make a treaty with Paris and the Constitution doesn't outrank that?
I don't understand what you mean by that. The Constitution doesn't outrank that.
No, why do we have to honor a treaty with, you named this country there, what was that? Paris. No, I think you said. I wasn't. I was halfway listening. But I believe it was Article 6 I'll give you this is the whole thing. The judges, I can't find anything where the judges can decide that gay marriage is the law of the land. Bring it up and let the people discuss it. But here's what they've done. If they've decided that if the judges they decide, okay, here's what I've always, as I read Article 3, this is what I see the judges are allowed to do. The same thing they do when they're crossing the highway. They have to walk where the light's at, and they got to look both ways and make a judgment, okay? But they don't get to just go out and jump across the highway and decide because I did it that now it's the law. That's our experience is the standard of our experience, which is reprobation. It's a reprobate man. We see that in traffic today. Some guy does whatever he wants to, and then everybody else is doing it. And it's so bad that there's not enough cops to enforce it. They might pull one guy over, and everybody's like, okay, we got to slow down. But as soon as the cops are gone, we go back to doing what we're doing.
Yeah, let me say this last thing, because this is what I do appreciate about what Eric Dingus is the head of a huge movement that's going on right now. With these shows on Thursday, you can learn a whole lot more about these issues. The fact that they are endeavoring to what they're doing is they're trying to revise the constitutional republic. They're trying to do, in my opinion, they're doing a new world order version, of the.
They've already done it.
Right. So
they've already got it in place.
Right, exactly.
The new world order has already got it in place. It's just getting us to accept it. But on this thing, somebody mentioned earlier about Madison on Mulberry versus Madison, and when the judges decided, this is what we're going to do, only thing Madison said was, "Oh man," but he should have said, "Wait a minute." He's credited with writing the Constitution. It says, "All laws shall be made by the Congress. I shall originate in the Congress."
3.
And the judge's job. But the judge's job is to say, wait a minute, according to the constitutional law, this here is not consistent. Send it back to the Congress and let the Congress debate it out and either enforce it or cut it down. Just say we're going to delete it or we're going to amend it.
That's not what the founders did. Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead. Finish your point now. Bring up Article 3.
Yeah. What I like about this, even if, like you agreed that they've already done it, the New World Order, they're creating their version of the Constitutional Republic, and they're doing it for the world because it's a worldwide thing. what gels with me okay about it is it's about individual self-determination. And Eric has even said it. You know what? What we're going to end up with, and I've seen prophecies on this. You know, not to go down that road, but I've seen prophetic sayings going back a couple hundred years, where in those latter days there's going to be tribes and gangs and many empires, and we're going to be all divided. But you know what? If you want an all-white nation, you can do everything you want. You can have it. You want an all-black nation, you can have it. If you want an all-Latin nation, you can basically create whatever nation you want. There's going to probably be thousands of nations now. There's going to be a homosexual nation. There's going to be an LGBTQ nation. There's going to be a bestiality nation. That's what's coming, because ultimately that people are rejecting the Creator God Almighty, the God of life, and they're taking on Luciferian freedom of if it feels good, do it, no matter what it is. And that's what the New World Order is ultimately about. So in a way, they're going to achieve their end, but they're going to, by doing it, they have no choice but to also allow myself and the many others that think the way I do to reestablish our own constitutional public the way we see it to be run, which was originally run by white men. That was it. It was white men who owned white men who owned the land were the only ones that could do it.
Well, I think there's something else that we need to add to this discussion too. And if you look at the Constitution, well, I'm not going to argue for a microsecond that the country, when it was founded primarily for the interests of white men, particularly white men who either owned property or had the skills, tools, and materials to conduct trade and, do some sort of, there's no doubt about that. I'm not going to even argue that. But the Constitution, as it is written, the Constitution, as is the most race-neutral document you could find. It doesn't even mention race until the 15th Amendment. And when they spoke of the 3/5 clause, they weren't even referring to a race. They said persons, all other persons, meaning persons among others, and Indians who are not taxed, meaning they were not citizens of the state, that they would be considered as other persons. There's almost no mention of race anywhere in the Constitution for the 15th Amendment. So that, and the 3/4 clause was for the purposes of congressional apportionment and legislation in Congress.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. All right. Article 3 of the Constitution establishes very clear, empowers the judicial branch of the national government. The very first sentence of Article 3 says what? The judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court, and in such inferior courts as the Congress may from time to time ordain and establish. So the Constitution itself says that we will have a Supreme Court, and that this court is separate from both the legislature, Congress, and the executive, the president. It is up to Congress to decide what other federal courts we have, right? Right? So we agree upon that?
Yes, that's true.
Okay. So why did the framers guarantee that we – Go ahead.
No, I was going to add the same thing. When we start talking about the election and elections, I hear this stuff with, the states are going to do this, and this, and it's the Constitution on the elections says that Congress shall do this. Congress may from time to time change laws, but it's Congress that's in it, and you're hearing the states out here making up election laws, and it's like, well, let's amend the Constitution in order to do that so we can say we're living by the Constitution. We're just making it up as we go. And that Madison, I said, that Madison thing, what that Madison thing was, and I talked to a lawyer many, many years ago before the computer, a lawyer that worked in the Library of Congress, and he told me, and my question when I called him is, how do they come up with the wording of the amendments when they make one? And the guy told me they don't make it by looking back at history. And that's what we do when we debate an issue.
Let's look back at history. Let's do that, Nathan. It says, why did the framers guarantee that we would have... He said the reason that the Constitution is so consistent is they don't look back at... they look back to when they write an amendment to the Constitution, they look back at the wording of the rest of the Constitution wherever it's written, and that's why it's so consistent. And he said on the case law,
He said this. Now I can't give you any literature anywhere on this, but this is what the guy told me over the phone. He goes, the 17th Amendment was what they did in England, case law, and they decided to get back to the Constitution, and we got the 17th, where the people, not the politicians, are deciding who they're going to work with.
Why did the framers guarantee that we would have a Supreme Court? Unless the Constitution was amended, a very difficult thing to do, right? But leave it open to the possibility that there would be no other federal courts, depending on what the politicians in Congress decided. That's a question. The answer tells us something about the debate at the time the Constitution was written. To some people in the United States at that time, the federal government seemed almost like a foreign government. Those people's main loyalty was to their states. The federal government was far away, and they did not feel that they had much of a say who ran it. Okay, I'm reading this right now. If you thought that way, an extensive system of federal courts staffed by judges who were appointed by the president, who might not have a lot of connections to have the state and its government, amounted to allowing the foreign federal government to get its tentacles into every corner of the nation. Other framers, okay, though, thought that the federal government could not be effective unless it had courts to help enforce its laws. If everything were left up to state courts, states that were hostile to the new federal government might thwart it in every turn. The compromise was that just as the Constitution and federal laws would be the supreme law of the land, there would definitely be a Supreme Court. So a court created by the federal government with judges appointed by the president would get the last word in case the state courts did something that was too threatening to the new nation. But the extent and shape of the rest of the federal court system, the degree to which the federal government would be present around the nation, would get hashed out in day-to-day politics. The result is the large and powerful federal judiciary we have today. The second sentence of Article 3, Section 1 says, the judges both of the Supreme and inferior courts shall hold their offices during good behavior and shall at stated times receive for their services a compensation which says that not be diminished during their continuance in office. It's pretty clear that what's going on here, this provision is designed to make sure that the judges are independent. They can decide cases according to what they think the law requires, with worrying about whether some powerful person or even majority of the people will object, as Alexander Hamilton put in the Federalist number 78. Go ahead.
But right after Section 1 there, Sections 2 states, basically Congress limits the Supreme Court. Okay, and when you mention the Federalist and Anti-Federalist papers, here's something I have a problem with. That was not some document we make an oath to. Okay, it was just a debate, and it was propaganda because the same guy that wrote the opposite to it under a ghost name, kind of like Mitt Romney that debated a guy named Pierre Delecto. And if you don't, even if you didn't like Mitt Romney, you would look at what Pierre Delecto was saying and come down on Romney's side on that Twitter thing. So it was propaganda. And I agree. There's some of it in there makes sense. I like the Article 6, Federalist Paper 68 and Anti-Federalist 68 is both saying the same thing that the Constitution says about who the electors are in the Constitution. It's citizen candidates, not a party that a group of people the party puts in that is committed to the party. So and I'm nothing wrong. I'm not. I'm just saying that I start out with the Federalist Papers as it was propaganda to move people's minds.
Well,
but and in the Constitution, Section 2 of Article 3, it says that Congress is the boss. The only thing they get to do is look to the Constitution
the people are the boss.
And the law.
The people are the boss.
Informing the court, the Constitution can determine its size, its makeup, and the extent of its jurisdiction by limiting it. That's what they mean. That's what he means when he says Congress is the boss. They're getting
well, you know,
power to make
the
that
Supreme
regulation.
Court will have the final word, and the Supreme Court has said, and it's enough to maintain the principle of judicial independence enshrined in Article 3. You know, I mean, we got to have a final. I mean, you just can't have everybody get. You know, I just don't understand where you're coming from with this. I don't understand. You know, the judicial power and the power of judicial review. You know, I mean, I just don't. You know, we have to have something that's going to. You know, we just like Mike was saying or whatever. We can't have somebody say bake a cake for homosexuals and that's it and that's the law. You know, I mean,
Article 1 says what their jurisdiction is to settle controversies between states, between one person in one state and another state, the parties between the state and the federal government. It Constitution outlines what their jurisdiction deciding matters is. Basically, the constitutionality of a law passed by legislative bodies or actions taken by the executive.
Yeah, and the WHO agreement is not the constitutional. It is not a treaty. That's what the American Statesman put in the chat room. So,
that's true. Not right now. It ain't.
Okay.
They're trying to make it that though.
Article 2 in Section 3, the second paragraph, again gives it to the final authority to the Congress.
Okay. Well, I don't know what you want to say to that, but anyway, I mean, again, the reason we got all this confusion is because we've imbued the Supreme Court with power it wasn't supposed to have. Like, it's not a lawmaking body. It's not to make the world a better place. It's not to do any of this. It's not a representative body. It's not supposed to have so many people who represent black people, so many represent white people, or whatever. It's supposed to be people who can look at the Constitution and apply it as it is written. That's what it was supposed to be. We transmuted it into something it never was intended to be under the constitutional scheme. That's the problem. It's not there to right wrong. The judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court. That's what it says. And in such inferior courts as the Congress may from time to time ordain and establish. You know,
that's right. So look what we look at the Supreme Court as. What have we turned it into? We've taken it away from the constitutional
That's because of the party system, Sarge. That's because of the parties. And
among other things, not just the party.
You know,
not just that.
So you got
not just that.
But get rid of the corporation, Sarge. Sarge, we get rid of the corporation.
But that's not all of it. That's not all of it. That's not all of it.
But if we get rid of the corporation, but Sarge, we get rid of the corporation, abolish the Federal Reserve, and all the other crap with the corporation, all that stuff will fall back into place. When the republic's restored, we won't have to worry about that problem. You're putting the cart before the horse. You know, we can't do that. You see, everyone's getting confused between what the corporation and the de facto and the de jure. I mean, that's the problem we keep falling in line with here. People are just not understanding that once we re-inhabit, it's already been re-inhabited, but once the people wake up, and we can have lawful elections again, and we can get rid of the two-party chaos system. All the other stuff.
Joe, I tell you, Joe, I think I know what the de jure law is. I recognize the de facto, just like I recognize criminals. Criminals don't obey the law either, do they? They're real, but they have no basis in law, do they? In fact, they're supposed to be punished, aren't they? But they're real.
Yeah.
So I look at these people who say that they've turned us into a corporation, all this other stuff. I'm not accepting things that I know are not true. It's not true. We're a constitutional republic. No matter what these people have done to hijack the constitutional scheme.
But we're not being governed that way today. We're not being governed.
I might agree with that, but that doesn't change what we are.
Here's why we are not living what we know. Is because all you got to do is reach the last generation, and that'll be where we are at now. There was a guy one time that redefined the word evolution, evolve, which means to grow. That means whenever I was born in the likeness of a human, and I'll go through pediatrics to geriatrics. But he said evolve means that something can become something from nothing, or something can become something different from its origin. And we laugh and we think this guy's an idiot, but the next generation comes up. And we've seen, I know you remember this, on Star Trek, we got Star Trek The Next Generation, where we got a guy that's a computer, and he talks about he would like to, the only reason he can do this because he's a program, he's a computer, he's saying how he would like to and experience emotions like humans do. Okay, well, guess what? When he starts experiencing emotions, it's because someone programmed, but the next generation is saying this guy evolved and it's a machine and he's doing wonderful things. No, I don't believe in God. You know, we believe in evolution. So this is how you reach the next generation.
Evolution.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
I'm sitting here looking at Article 3, Section 3, the second sentence again, and this is the one on the judicials. It again gives power back to the Congress. The Congress shall have power to declare and punish the punishment of treason. Is Congress and that guy Madison? Whenever when the judge says, "Okay, I'm gonna rule for whatever the other guy, I can't remember it now, but the guy Mulberry. Well, I'm gonna rule for Mulberry." Madison, more than anybody, should have jumped out and says, "No, you don't get to decide this. It goes back to Congress and let them debate it and either correct it or amend it or enforce it." You know,
Congress already
so they dropped the ball.
They already debated it. They already did that, and they sent it to the Senate, and then the Senate sent it to the President to become law. It doesn't have to go back to Congress again.
The point Nate just made too is that that's what the Supreme Court does. They bring it back to the court, and then the courts we either return or keep it going.
But it's supposed to go back to Congress, and Congress settles it. And Congress settles it, and then we start talking to the president about amending it or enforcing it.
Congress only settles.
No, but I mean after the Senate and the Congress has done their job, it's the president that signs off on it.
Right, but what I'm
it goes from the Congress to the Senate, then the Senate to the president. That's how it goes.
Yeah, but the judges don't decide. I remember this in 2016 when they came down with gay marriage. The court declared gay marriage as a law of the land. Ted Cruz.
Jason, they only decide whether or not it's constitutional. The Supreme Court only decides whether or not it's constitutional. You know?
But it wasn't constitutional.
They're not there to decide whether a law is a good law or a bad law. They decide whether it's constitutional. A lot of bad laws are constitutional.
But it ain't constitutional.
A lot of good laws are unconstitutional. They're supposed to decide what the Constitution allows that particular aspect of government or not.
Well, because the Supreme Court overstepped their bounds by ruling on it, period. They had no authority to rule on it. That should have been an issue for the states and the states alone to begin with.
Absolutely, just like abortion. And hopefully we're going to have that revisited, and so it'll be sent back to states. The state's supposed to define what marriage is, if they're going to have it. See, here's what the court, here's the little rules they got away with. If you're going to offer marriage licenses to anyone in the state, it has to be assigned equally, as though marriage was for some other purpose other than the products of procreation. That's the reason marriage came into being, because they're products of procreation called children. You can't, and without that as a basis in principle, if not in fact, there is no reason for marriage.
Well, marriage is between a man and a woman. A union between a man and a woman.
Yeah, the reason is because when men and women procreate and copulate, they issue children. And the purpose of marriage was to regularize the relationship with the community, the state, and the parents with the obligations of the children. That's the purpose of marriage. Without the possibility of procreation in principle.
No. Marriage.
I'm saying in principle, if not in fact, because old people were no longer capable of procreating and getting married. I'm speaking of principle. Without the possibility of procreation in principle, there's no reason for marriage.
Marriage licenses had to do with mongrelization. Is exactly what it had to do with. Because as we all know, there was a great controversy over this reality of this integration between other races and what we were discussing earlier about this white nation that was founded. And that's why marriage licenses were implemented. And then it was further hijacked by this corporate fraud that's overcome us, because then it became actually a matter of money and fees and penalties.
That's right there for sure.
the corporate.
Well, I think the state sees it as a money-making scheme too. Once they realize they could charge a few bucks for the license, and then they could always claim, you know, and then when they started to institute syphilis testing, they say it's a safeguard against the transmission of venereal disease. They added a whole bunch of reasons on to the reason for marriage. But whatever they do, it ought to be left to the state. Have a license or not have a license, it ought to be up to the state. However they want to
the state, yeah. Yeah. All right. Who was that in the background there? Was that your dad, Mike? Or somebody? I heard somebody talking.
Yeah, I heard some noise.
Oh, okay. All right. I didn't know. All right. Anything else anybody wants to bring up here real quick before we start getting ready to wrap it up?
Yeah, one other thing. I got to admit, though, now, what makes me a little bit queasy, given the history of the Yugoslavia and the Habsburg Empire and even the Roman Empire, I'm a little bit queasy of the United States becoming balkanized. I don't think it's going to work out too well for us in the long run. I think there ought to be a way around which we ought to be able to coalesce around ideas and traditions because, like I said, again, I will cite you, recent memory, Yugoslavia, the Habsburg Empire, and a whole host of others that literally fractured along ethnic fault lines. I mean, this is always a recipe for disaster.
So you don't agree, Sarge. So your position is, Sarge, you don't agree with the re-inhabited, the Right Disarming website, basically. You don't agree with that, correct?
No, look, I agree in the right of free association. Look, the right of free association is precious, not only to other people, but to me. You got a right to associate or not associate with whomever you wish. That is entirely your right to do. But we're talking about
the idea of the republic being restored. The idea of the republic being restored and the guidelines and outline way the Righteous Army outlines it, or the republic.
Look, the likelihood of a nation that would fracture along ethnic fault lines was minimized by the very Constitution itself. Because, like I said, it's rarely you're going to find any document written for a nation that's as ethnically neutral as the Constitution is. So if you stick to its dictates, I think everybody can be happy in the long run.
Yeah, the reason
I don't understand. Go ahead, Mike.
It would be perceived as neutral is because it was written by the people it was written for the reason it was written for them. So there was no need to address. And even the 3/5 issue you discussed on other persons kind of goes counter to that claim that it's neutral. See, the problem is that its original founding and purpose, we're so far away from that now with this corporate agenda, which is this New World Order, one world government, break down nations, break down racial identity, break down gender identity, break down humanity itself, and merge them with machines and technology. We're so far away from the original reality that people can't even grasp that reality.
Well, I think we got an overlay of that beginning with the progressive era and its affinity with Marxism and all of its dialectical materialism, class warfare constraints. So I think that's how all that really got its really big beginning, and that really came about with if you notice, we got the worst amendments right in a row. The 16th, 17th, 18th Amendments to the Constitution are all progressive era amendments, and they really did damage to the Constitution. And they were at the
14th Amendment did the most damage.
Who were animated by Marxism and Bismarckian socialism in the late 19th century.
The 14th Amendment is what really did the most damage by making you a subject class citizen and really with declaring you a resident. You know, so that's the problem right there. And until we go back and revisit that issue and the Reconstruction Acts, you know, and acknowledge the fact that everything after that should be null and void, and we need to go back and re-inhabit the original. And we can grow. Nobody says the Republic has to go live back in 1787, and we're going to re-implement slavery. Nobody's saying that, you know. So
hey, Joe,
I think that's where a lot of the fear is coming from. Go ahead.
Hey, Joe, since we were talking about the marriage certificate, and I pointed out really the main reason why the marriage certificate even came into being, and we were talking about the 3/5 of other persons and how this was a white nation founded by white nations, and how now we're so far away from that reality, and then we're talking about these ethnic and racial issues. I decided to give Dan a call, so I have him on the line with me now.
All right. Well,
that's of what we were just
bring him on, whatever you want to talk about.
So, number one, Dan, any details if anybody wants to hear anything further on my statement about why marriage licenses came in to begin with, I indicated it was because of racial reasons, racial concerns at the time, and then of course became further hijacked, with this corporate fraud, so that it could be turned into a money-making machine. It means more of that now than what it was originally put in place for. But if you want to give any elaboration on the marriage license issue, Dan.
Well, it's like so many things. People get used to it, and they assume things, okay? So just like a driver's license, that's a commercial thing. A license was only needed by people that were doing it commercially. A vehicle is a commercial vehicle, not a car, okay? But over time, people think that it means everybody, which is totally stupid, okay? And the marriage license is the same thing. Nobody, when the country got started, went to the state for permission to get married. That's ludicrous. A license was issued by the state to do something that would otherwise be illegal. Just like in the movies 007, they used to say he had a license to kill. Why? Because murder is against God's law. So the state issued 007 a license to kill for the state. Well, a marriage license was when people of different races wanted to get to marry, because marrying outside your race was against the biblical law or the common law. So the state said, we have the power to allow people to do that, which they don't, but that people assumed that it was okay to do it. But that was the original intent, because regular Christian folk, they didn't bother bringing the state into your marriage. What's the state got to do with your marriage?
Right, and we were just discussing before I brought you on the fact that the Supreme Court completely stepped out of bounds when they decided to make a ruling about it being constitutional to have gay marriage. That should have been left up to the states to begin with. That was way out of the scope of the Supreme Court's authority to even rule on that, let alone the fact that they ruled wrongly and ungodly to begin.
On that point, George W. worked at George W. Bush. He had his razor thin. Right, he barely got through, and then in 2004, somebody asked him what did he think about gay marriage, a reporter, and he said, well, I believe marriage is between one man and one woman, and I would have no problem with a marriage amendment in the Constitution. Well, that got the Bible thumpers to the polls. He won real big. And then after he was elected, somebody asked him about his marriage amendment. He said, well, that's not for the U.S. Constitution, but I would have no problem with the states running, if the people wants to go across the states and put marriage amendments in, I wouldn't have any problem with that. Well, that woke them up. They started doing marriage amendments all across the country. And then the judge that he appointed was the judge, a federal judge that he appointed, sent the first gay marriage case to the Supreme Court. And guess what? It became law. Do you see how he worked us? He's like, well, I like that guy. I believe in God and George W. because he believes like me. So you see how they work us, and they get us going in a different direction. And that's, I can't go on CBN or CF, whatever, and say what I just said, because they'll squelch that, because they don't want me reaching all them Bible thumpers, But I want to throw this in, and I probably don't mean anything to anybody, but it does to me. I got some of my amendments titled, and my own personal titles on the 13th. I got Free at Last. The 14th is Free at Last 2. And the 15th is Free at Last again. And the 19th is Still Working on Free at Last.
All right.
Just having some fun there, man.
Or Dan, I know you got Dan on there. Dan on here. I appreciate you, Dan, coming on. Anything else you want Dan to talk about? Because I know we talked about some issues earlier when we said we wish we had Dan here. So, Mike, anything you want to think of off the top of your head? My mind's blank.
Yeah, I brought him. I actually decided to call him because of something that Sarge was saying. Because there was something you guys were addressing, another issue regarding ethnicity or race, if you can remember what it was, but that prompted me to call him. I was just bringing him up to speed.
I think we're talking about
on
sanctuary cities, Mike. Was it something to do with sanctuary cities?
No,
it wasn't that. Right now, I was just trying to bring Dan up to speed on some of the things we discussed, but there was something that Sergeant, you were talking about, Joe, and it was relative to the racial issue. Maybe, man, what was it? You kind of evaded me. You guys don't remember what it was.
Oh, Sarge, you remember, Sarge?
Northwest.
Well, we talked about several things. We talked about the fact that the Constitution is, that as it is written, is astonishingly racial or ethnic free. Like I said, it doesn't mention race until the 15th Amendment. Even when the only explicit reference to slavery is the Fugitive Slave Clause, but that doesn't even mention race. I guess it could be anybody that's enslaved, and after all, 13th Amendment allows for anybody of any race to be enslaved if you've been convicted of a crime. So I'm just saying that the Constitution itself is pretty race neutral. Now, as I believe it was Dan who said that possibly the framers never envisioned a time where there would be any question that other than whites would have primacy in the country and in most things. But nonetheless, whether that is true or not, that isn't the way they wrote the Constitution, even though slavery was the most single divisive issue at the time of the constitutional debates. There was no other issue, single issue. They debated at the Constitutional Convention, the constitutional debates, that was more heated than the issue of slavery. Even then, they didn't put anything about ethnic affiliation or anything else in the Constitution.
No, but they did put it in the Federalist Papers. Papers put out to explain what was in the Constitution. It was very explicit. John Jay in Federalist Paper 2 makes it very, very clear.
Breaking up, Dan.
Breaking up. Breaking up.
What? I said when John Jay wrote the Federalist Paper.
Let me walk out front again, man. I had a good connection there in my home for a while, but now I'm outside.
Yeah, we lost
ahead,
everything
Dan.
you said, Dan.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
They didn't say that much in the actual Constitution because it was understood. But what they did say in the Federalist Papers, especially number 2 written by John Jay, he explicitly states that the Constitution, when it refers to men, like all men are created equal, etc., and they means that all equal in front of the law or by the law, it was talking about Europeans, Caucasian Europeans. That's who founded the country. I mean, it's obvious. And there are Supreme Court decisions clear up to the late 1800s that threw cases out of court because the people that had come to the Supreme Court to get a decision were not white. Specifically in Washington, D.C., 3 black women had filed a suit against Washington for not defending them, and when it got to the Supreme Court, they threw it out. They said, because these rights are talking about Caucasians, not you. You don't have rights in front of this court. And that was in the late 1800s. So the Constitution specifically doesn't talk about it that much because the average person understood it.
Let me reiterate, as I do.
Well, at that time, though, you got to remember, it was many of those laws that they were what was that? Implicating the court about were legal because of the rulings of the Supreme Court and others on the matter. So the case law that would have said otherwise hadn't been established yet. And there were, if you look at Federalist number 54, you'll find a contrary ruling on the idea of whether or not the framing was meant to be race. Well, not the framing because it didn't exist at the time, but whether or not the framers meant to have a race-specific nation. And that would include James Madison
that has been established by so many things, including history itself, for decades and decades and decades. The only people that held office were white men for decades. That was established. It's not even debatable.
Right, and I want to solidify what Dan is saying by again reiterating what I often reiterate because it can't be reiterated enough, that this is not about some group of racist people or white supremacist bullshit. That's their psyop shit that I referenced earlier in the beginning of Dan's show. This is about the fact that just as I should not be going over to some all-black tribe in Africa and jumping in and saying, hey, I'm going to tell you all what to do, or going over to China where all the Chinese people live and saying, hey, I'm going to tell you all what to do. Oh, don't white men have a right to have their own nation? And that's what this nation was. And what we have now is this political correctness bullshit with their psyops, their racism psyop, their anti-Semite psyop, their homophobic psyop, because that's their agenda. That's what facilitates their agenda. The New World Order, one world government agenda is about breaking down nations, breaking down racial identity and integrity, breaking down gender identity, ultimately destroying humanity, destroying this earth, destroying what God made. I mean, I'm beside myself that I'm saying this, and that the whole world doesn't grasp what I'm saying. You know, they get, and the reason is because they get sucked time and time again back into tucking their tail between their legs like a dog and being fearful of the anti-Semite or the racism or the LGBT homophobic psyops that have been put into place to keep people from having the very discussions we're having right now. And this is a discussion. And my hat's off to my brother, Sarge. He's a black man. He's on this show, and he agrees with what we're saying. And many others do. Dan runs a show where there's many black people he has on his show that applaud him and love what he's talking about, because that's what we're talking about. And I started to pull up, before I called Dan, I was going to pull up Jeremiah 12:15 through 17. Dan, if you could pull it up quick on your computer, please. I love reading that verse, because if you want to talk about, the nitty-gritty, there's God telling you what's going to happen. This little experiment, my friends, ain't working out too good. And that's clear in everybody's mind. God made everybody to be what they are, special and unique in their own ways. And it's this fake Jew, going back again to the first part of Joe's show tonight. Everybody hopefully will listen to the whole show, right? We laid it out. We've exposed the psyops, the fake Jew, Edomite, Canaanite, godless, bad bloodline. It's all biblical, that infiltrated the land of Judea, took over this role of the Jews being God's chosen people bullshit, and created this big illusion so that they could control everybody and everything, as they do now, the Fed, the World Banks, Hollywood, with all their perversion and filth and godlessness, AI, their whole ambition, their whole agenda. But God says, if Dan pulled it up, please read it, Jeremiah 12:15 through 17. Did you pull it up, Dan?
I have it here. It's in my Bible.
Can you just read
it?
You said
12:15?
Jeremiah 12:15 through 17.
All right. And it shall be, after my plucking them out, I shall return and have compassion on them and bring them back, everyone to his inheritance and everyone to his land. And it shall be, if they learn well the ways of my people, to swear by my name, as Yahweh lives, as they taught my people to swear by Baal, then they shall be established in the midst of my people. If they do not obey, I shall pluck up and destroy that nation, declares Yahweh.
So clearly, God,
I got something that's pretty lengthy. If you guys,
God had a plan to establish His unique creations, and if they all walk according to His people, and that's what the Israelites were all about. They were supposed to be the light unto the world. They were supposed to. Here's God's law. Here's how God expects for His creation to live. And if they live that way, they will prosper in their lands. And if they don't, they're going to be just.
Mike, Nathan wanted to say something to that. Go ahead, Nathan.
Yeah, I just want to, and I'm passing on something. I don't know where it came from, but it makes sense. Somebody had told me, and I got it highlighted in my Bible, that our Constitution by our founders, and I can't come up with anything that proves this, but it makes sense. If it ain't true, it makes sense. But this guy told me that if you read Deuteronomy 17:14 through 20, that our founders, somebody at the beginning, used this scripture to pattern the Constitution after. I mean, they even got the whole thing with the legal son, the leader can't be, he's got to be he's got to be a citizen. But for the after this generation, everybody's got to be a citizen in order to run for president. Here it's king. But if you get a chance, look at that 17, Deuteronomy 17, 14 through 20, and it does match up to that the Constitution was patterned.
Can you hear me?
After that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dan, can you hear me still? Yeah, Nate sounds real bad to me because everybody else hear him fine because he's breaking up bad to me.
Let me get off of my earpiece here.
I heard him pretty good. I don't know. I heard what he had to say, but
I heard him.
With that being said, so any other final points here before we start getting ready to wrap it up, guys? I know we got still a full house here, but I don't want to. I just don't want to keep talking about the same issue over and over. Our goal here is to re-inhabit and restore our republic and our Constitution in this country, because we're lost. So and we have a plan set forth here, but we're gonna have these discussions. I got that, but I don't want to be repetitive. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, let me go ahead, Dan.
I was going to read just a portion of the one verse out of Deuteronomy 17 in verse 15. Set a sovereign over you from among your brothers. You are not allowed to set a foreigner over you who is not your brother. And you remember the word brother in the Hebrew and Greek was a racial term, from the womb. Somebody from the same womb, same racial womb.
That's right.
So we're not to put foreigners, exactly like you said, it's common sense. You don't put aliens in positions of power in your own country. It's stupid. It's ludicrous.
Exactly. It's common sense stupid.
It's common sense. Only Americans are so stupid that they would buy it.
Yeah. No, I know that. But how do we deal with the different peoples and whatnot? See, this is going to become an issue. What are we trying to say then? We're going to, segregate or separate? I mean, because this is a question now I'm getting hit with. What are we going to do? How are we going to address this?
The only people who can govern have to be our own people.
Right.
It doesn't mean you have to abuse people or rob them or anything else. It just simply means the people running the country have to be our own people.
Right. In other words, to reiterate Dan's point, there's only white men who own land, just like it was made out to be, should be in positions of a power and authority and legislation in Congress and the president and everything else in this country. Blacks are welcome here. Chinese are welcome here. Indians are welcome here. But they're subject to what we lay down in terms of law and how things are supposed to be run in our nation. Otherwise, they should have their own nations, and they should be running their nations in accordance with God's law for their people.
And how do you say that, Mike, to a veteran or to somebody who served and fought and bled or died, who had for the foundations of the American spirit and our Constitution? They can't have a hold of position in public office.
America itself, and Americanism, I did a post on this recently. I should read it. I did a pretty good job with it. America and Americanism itself is an illusion. It's actually a psyop, just like racism and anti-Semitism, America. Because now they can say, I'm not white, I'm not black, I'm not male, I'm not a female, I'm an American. That's what they've used precisely to help facilitate what their agenda is. It's literally a psyop, America is. Or they've turned it into one. They infiltrated and hijacked it, because we've already discussed what it was originally, and they've infiltrated, hijacked it, and used it just like they've hijacked the First Amendment, freedom of speech. No, with freedom comes responsibility, right? So, but what do? They try to argue, freedom of speech, I have the right. I have the right to do a billboard with a black man and a white man kissing each other. That's freedom of expression. I have the right to play some bestiality videos from my child, because that's freedom of expression. Come on. That's what they've done. They've hijacked the essence of the First Amendment, freedom of speech, and turned it into Luciferian freedom of, if it feels good, do it. Anything goes. That's anti-God. That's Luciferianism. No control, no order, no structure, and out of bounds with God's law. And everybody is out of whack with God's law right now. In fact, they don't even believe in God's law, as you know, Joseph, mentioning your preacher friend earlier, who says, Jesus did away with the law. It's all great. He
did, but we didn't.
I mean, what a...
that's why we depend on him, because we can't do away with it. We fall short of it.
That's the psyop of fake Christianity. You know, otherwise Jesus would not have said, he who overcometh, the same shall be saved. That's on you. Faith without works is dead. That's on you. If you love me, keep my commandments. That's on you. Those three statements I made are contrary to this. It's grace and love, but we're all just one big kumbaya, happy family. That's what they're doing. That's how they've been able to achieve what they've done so far. And it's only going to get worse unless we stand up and turn it around and reestablish what God ordained.
Okay.
I yield.
Thoughts and opinions on that, everybody? Go down the line here. Stars.
I got a couple.
Yeah.
Look,
hey, Joe.
Even if I would concede the fact that white men were intended to be those in authority and in governance, I would have to admonish everyone here to be careful not to get a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant version of Hillary Clinton as your president. I think you'd be far better off with Byron Donalds rather than someone like that. So I think even though I understand the arguments, I think it's infinitely more important to get someone of the proper governmental temperament who will govern in accordance with your liberties and your constitutional rights. I think we can name plenty of Watts and others who simply don't meet the criteria of being willing to govern constitutionally.
That's
the
right.
founding fathers never intended for white men to be in governing positions who were not the kind of people you're talking about. That's why just any old buddy, even just any old buddy that was white, didn't have a right to cast a ballot, sit in a jury box, or hold an office. There were qualifications, and a lot of white people did not have those qualifications. Only the best of the best are supposed to govern. Period.
Yeah.
You have
well, I'll tell you this much. I think this holy grail, this almost religious sacrament of the left, this diversity, equity, inclusion, is one of the biggest lies and falsehoods ever fostered on the American people. They are totally destroying the idea of merit, and on that, I'm going to have to agree with you. It's the most alarming trend in American public life today. Diversity for diversity's sake, it is just an abomination the way they are inflicting it on the American people.
Amen.
Amen.
Brother. You're right.
Amen. We live in a cacistocracy. The worst.
That's exactly the word
of our society's in charge.
The worst, especially in the big cities.
Well, can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead, Nathan.
Here's one thing here's something I've noticed. Most of the issues we're dealing with is something that the last generation gave to us. Whenever the founders came over here, originally they were founders. They were white people seeking religious freedom because they were being demanded, this is how you worship through the king, okay? And they came over here, and I think they had good intentions. And where we got the paradigm with the race thing is the next thing we see is black people coming over here, and they're like a shovel or a wheelbarrow, you know? They're just like a horse. That is, in our minds, that's what they do. And there was some people that didn't think like that. And if it wasn't for those white people that believed these were real humans that deserved the same respect that we do, some of them hung like a horse thief, and they're the ones that went out and worked towards getting these people their freedom. It took another generation or two. So we're always dealing with the mindset of the past and where we're at right now. And I just want to throw that out there because I know I'm very fortunate. I was raised in the South. I never seen one of them signs on a tree someplace telling certain people you don't want to be here when the sun comes up. my mom and daddy worked in the fields beside black people growing up, and I didn't know there was a racial issue till I went to junior high, and then that's whenever me and my brother's eyes was opened up to it. So we were dealing with the last generation thinking through where we're at. So we need to be patient with each other and stick to your conviction and listen and listen and listen, because you might learn something from somebody else. Thank you. And Joe, I got an idea for a interview. If you can look at my number and call me afterwards.
Yeah, man, not a problem. Hang on, don't hang up
and
yet.
Joe, let's not forget the role of Marxism in all this, because Marxism hijacked the civil rights movement, where was suffused and inculcated with Marxist ideas, but they wanted not just a step further, but exponential steps further, and aggravated the problem far beyond what it ever should have been. Because I'm telling you, man, the Marxism and all of this intersectionality, this racial identity politics, I mean, it has grown to the point of grotesquerie.
You're right, brother. You took the words right out of my brain there, man. You said that very well. That's a big part of it. I was going to say earlier, and Dan would have elaborated on, the kinds of propaganda they have even used to create the notions and the ideas of the relationship of white men and slaves. It's the same bad bloodline that we always talk about, who had the money and had the ships that were bringing the slaves over here for their money-making ventures more than anything. And many of the white people that were good, decent white people that could live alongside with blacks had blacks as slaves, no different than, if I'm a billionaire and I got a housekeeper, that's taking care of my clothes. They had a place to sleep. They had a meal every day. Did they work out in the fields? Yeah, they did. But a lot of them, that gave them a life. It gave them room and board, and it gave them a job. And were they making a lot of money? I don't know. That's another reality, because a lot of the people that had them they were workers, and it didn't just apply to blacks. I mean, there were gangs. There were the Chinese that they brought over to build the railroads and to do the laundries. There were, again, we talked earlier about what happened.
Time permitting here, because we're going to get cut off here. So, Dan, you got closing thoughts here? And then I'll get Sarge in. I'll give you the last word if you want, Mike, but I'm just saying I got time here getting permitted. I'm going to cut me off. Dan?
No, just thanks. Thanks for the platform. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. God bless you, Dan, and thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Sarge, you want to say something here?
Yeah, I'd like to add that most of the discussion about everything that gets hijacked by the left gets completely blown out of context. There's absolutely no historical context to what they say. Everything they say is designed to implement their agenda and make it and give them more power. You cannot have a discussion about slavery. You cannot speak about people who before the Civil War were prospering as slave owners themselves, and they were black. One of the richest slave owners in the South was William Ellison, who was a slave-breeding magnate. He was looked down upon by other slave owners in that respect. And he made his fortune by the skills he acquired as a slave. Now, if you think for a microsecond, I'm saying slavery is a good way to obtain skills. By no means am I doing such a thing. I'm saying it happened, and I'm getting tired of the anti-slavery propaganda and pornography that's being peddled as absolute historical fact. As long as you tell the truth in historical context, the good and the bad of it, and the benign, then that's okay with me. What we're getting now is a one-sided propaganda organ designed to further a Marxist leftist dialectical agenda, and we better be on the lookout for it.
All right, Dave. Dave, you got something to say at the end here, Dave? I know you've been quiet.
Oh, yeah. Yep. I just want to say that everything that we want to do and go forward with on every level can only be achieved if those that have corrupted what we already have are held accountable. For whatever reason, however, they have to be removed, but they must be held accountable or it will repeat itself again. And the sad part about it is, Sarge like to say Marxism. A lot of people like to say communism. When it all comes down to a belief, a religious belief, as in Judaism, and the protocols of the elders of Zion lay out a blueprint of everything that is happening again, because history repeats itself, and because they want to eliminate the history that we have, they want to eliminate what they've done. 109 countries banished, excommunicated. These people, the Zionists, are the ones who can't be of their bloodline, but will follow them. They'll follow them down every hole they go. And regardless, 109 countries banish them 1,030 times. America better be 110 or it's never going to stop, because it is so sickening bad that it doesn't matter what you call it anymore. Anything that was good has become bad, and the morals of this country have gone so far south, I don't know if we can save it. In all honesty, I really don't. After where I live and see what goes on every day, it's not a race thing, because these people want all of us, all races, dead except them, and that's what people don't understand in America. The Goyim are every single person not of their bloodline. They preach this every day. They look at it. They talk about it. The rabbis are on TV. They're openly saying it, and it's not addressed. But other than our congressmen, they have dual citizenship to these people and are the Zionists and pledge themselves to that country and that religious belief because they think that that's what's happening and that's what's right. Well, when you look into it, you do the research, and you go down that rabbit hole like I have, you come to find out the things that they believe in are absolutely Luciferian, satanic, and it doesn't make a difference what they are. If they believe in that stuff, they have no business being on the same spinning circle I am, breathing the air I am, because they're not human. They're demons, and I yield.
All right, dude. Nathan, anything else before I get the mic to wrap it up?
This is it, man.
All right, Mike, go ahead. Wrap it up, man.
Yeah, no, these guys all did great. All of them said it like it is. Sarge, great words. Dan, great words. Tave, righteousarmy.org is the site I put together to provide as much as I possibly could, supporting everything that we've been discussing. That's about all I could say. Anybody wants a place to go to get some good resources, watch some good videos, and click on some good links, righteousarmy.org and the Big Virus Hoax, HOAX, thebigvirushoax.com. That was the best effort I could put forth on my end to try to, help wake people up, expose corruption and lies, and to spread the truth. So God bless everybody.
I want to say thank you, Mike, for that, too. Thank you very much, because you are the one that opened my eyes to this 100%. I appreciate it and in debt to you greatly.
All right, thanks. All right, guys, you got to wrap it up. That's it. I can't play nothing here at the end. So, hey, thanks for everybody that's listening. God bless our Republic. Thursday night, join us for our meeting, all right? Take care.